Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto gets exiled to Pokemon. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Zoe Walker and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Toby has a bad day. It was a good day to be Uchiha Obito. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was busy pancaking Konoha, having ripped its way from the breast of Sensei's wife, necessary, unfortunate, inevitable. That selfsame sensei, the much-vaunted fourth Hokage, was falling before the inexorable power of the Mangekyo Sharingan. A Rasengan had just missed his head by barest centimeters. Okay, so 2 out of 3 isn't bad, Obito reasoned, before a twinge of pain caused him to hesitate, nearly walking right into a Hiraishin kunai. Not again. He'd been plagued by these random shooting pains through his remaining eye since about 10 minutes into the fight. It was throwing him off his game. How was Minato, deluded, betraying fool, doing it? Because it certainly wasn't coming from Obito's end. He was nowhere near chakra exhaustion or blindness, and he hadn't started crying blood yet, the telltale signs of Mangekyo backlash. No fool he, Obito had extensively tested his Kamui prior to the battle, and nothing like this had ever happened. Admittedly, he never used the Kamui so often in such a short span of time before, but that shouldn't have made a difference. Madara could use dozens of Mangekyo powers in minutes with no ill effects, after all. Besides, this felt almost like it was coming from the other side of the Kamui. But Kakashi, murderer, monster, oathbreaker, had no idea of the power his eye held, nor any way to use it, not being an Uchiha himself. The only thing capable of accessing the space behind the Kamui was Obito's own jutsu, and nothing he'd put in the warp space could cause this. What was going on? In a gaily lit shroud of impenetrable darkness, a presence floated, eyes glowing red in the eddying light. Before the entity's vigilant gaze, faint ripples spread above it through the scintillating spectrum of featureless gray. Hovering to the left for a closer look, it observed more ripples, bracketing it at right angles, originating from a slightly different point. Curiously, the entity swiped a limb of twilight, tipped with blood, through the center of the disturbance, to no observable effect. When more ripples radiated out in front of it, the being turned around to keep them in sight, testing the new point of origin with another grasping poke. No change. Puzzled, the being backed off, head cocked, to ponder this phenomenon. Deliberately, abruptly, the presence was struck by inspiration. Leaving crystalline fragments of churning foam in its ponderous wake, the being agilely sped off, weaving its way through the fragments of babbling reason that surrounded it. Back in Konoha, Obito doubled over in sudden agony as several shards of a strange, silvery crystal forced their way from his eye, shattering on the ground before rapidly melting into puddles of liquid darkness. Minato, sporting ninja that he was, and wary of his opponent preparing yet another exotic technique, backed off and gave Obito a chance to recover. The next time he had the chance, Obito popped into the Kamui dimension for a brief check, but he couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. At least, it wasn't any stranger than usual, though he could already feel the sheer unreality of the place wearing at his mind like silky sandpaper. As he swirled his way back to Konoha, 2 thoughts filled Obito's mind, chasing each other about his bewildered brain. What the heck is happening? And why couldn't it have waited a few days before it happened? Meanwhile, the entity returned to its previous position, a purple-gray orb more solid than even the being itself clutched in one crimson-tipped talon and a cracked mirror held delicately in its heavy, golden beak. Looping a few times around the area to bleed off excited energy, the presence carefully positioned its mirror and brought one great, infernal eye up to the reflective surface. Switching its tail with anticipation, the Leviathan carefully touched the orb to the mirror, which ran with bands of color before clearing. Instead of the entity's own armored visage, the mirror now projected a blonde human, hurling a knife straight at the entity, as a vortex of gray overlaid the image. In Konoha, a Hiraishin kunai hit Obito just as he began pulling himself into the Kamui. Namake's Minato vanished in a flash of light. The mirror shattered. From where the tool had once sat, a wave of concussive force blasted out, knocking the entity back. It let out a world-shaking cry of surprise and dismay, nearly losing its grip on its precious orb. Carefully transferring the priceless bauble to a sure grip, the presence sorrowfully regarded the space its mirror had recently occupied. Sure, the orb was irreplaceable, but it had been fond of that mirror, and now it would need a new one, and that just wouldn't be quite the same. What the heck was happening out there in the lower planes, that it would affect this world so? Namake's Minato and Uchiha Obito staggered backwards, both quite perplexed. Neither of them had done anything that hadn't been done many times throughout their duel. Minato had teleported, as had Obito. Nothing out of the ordinary for them. And yet, now the world roiled and bubbled, like the surface of water brought to a vigorous boil, as an unearthly cry echoed through the woods, chilling the bones of both men. Still, ninja battles wait for no one, and both men picked themselves up and renewed hostilities, all the while trying to figure out exactly how their opponent had pulled that off, and why. Out in Konoha proper, the nine-tailed demon fox paused for a moment as a sound cut through his genjutsu-induced haze, raising his hackles and prickling that persistent itch at the base of his tails. That howl seemed awfully familiar. The great fox could swear he had heard it somewhere before, not a Biju, like himself, but something still worthy of respect. A spirit? No, a kami? Maybe definitely important, but he just couldn't quite remember. It was on the tip of his tongue. Where had he heard that before? Then the small human that smelled of monkeys slammed the fox's head into the ground with a huge stick, and the fox lost himself in dreams of destruction yet again. Separated by a quick teleport after yet another brief clash, Minato and Toby were halted from yet another exchange of blows by a second world-shaking disturbance. And this time, clearly neither was doing anything to cause it. Neither Toby's reality-warping eye nor Minato's seals were anywhere near it. So who? The two ninja watched, conflict momentarily forgotten, as the warp lengthened and extended before a single, scarlet claw forced its way through the rift. Then another, and another, and another, and they began to pull. With another grating howl, the warp was forced wide, allowing the entity to float slowly through. Star and firelight glinted off its golden armor, while its crimson-tipped limbs floated behind the being's bulk. Towering over even the great Hashirama trees, the being hovered easily over the rough terrain, seemingly ignorant of the effects of gravity. As the ninja watched in paralyzed shock, the being slowly, carefully lowered its great head to examine each of them with a single eye, the glowing irises as tall as the men they observed. After a few moments of intense, unblinking scrutiny, the entity was seemingly satisfied. For now at least. It raised its head and met a Baijidama coming the other way. It was a terrible day to be Uchiha Obito. Far from the triumphant vengeance he had anticipated, he now stood beside his former sensei, conflict subsumed by the numbing shock that blanketed his mind. And things had been going so well, too. As a thick beam of brilliant, purple energy from the throat of the creature clashed with a burst of black energy from the fox demon's gaping maw, Obito racked his brains for what had gone wrong. And what was that thing that had clawed its way from beyond the Kamui? The Uchiha had always assumed that the place the Kamui brought him to was a private space, only accessible through his unique eyes. But if monsters like that called the dimension home, then did the fox's claws just pass through that thing with no effect? Right then, as he carefully sidled off, Obito vowed that he was never, ever going to use the Kamui again. For all he knew, the being he had called was one of the weak ones. Even powerful space-time ninjutsu wasn't worth the risks. Even if his mind and senses weren't totally occupied by the clash of titans before him, Namake's Minato had bigger problems than one ninja, no matter how powerful. Now, Obito was fighting a creature of apparently equal power, and devastating Konoha in the process. Not with purpose, but as collateral damage. Minato was only mostly sure he could stop the fox, if he sacrificed his life in the process. But if he did, who would stop the rift creature? Jiraiya-sensei was out of town, and no one else in Konoha's service had the necessary sealing skills. He didn't even know what that thing was. But maybe he knew someone who did. Minato ran his thumb along the side of his face, picking up a little blood from where he'd torn his lip after the strange, white-masked ninja had punched him in the face. The Hokage froze for a few seconds, concentrating on the world around him, and absorbed just enough natural chakra for his purposes. Minato was by no means anywhere near mastering senjutsu, but he knew the theory and just enough of the basics to summon his teachers when he had time to train. After all, one needs to use sage chakra if one wants to summon the great toad sages. Minato boy? What are you doing summoning us? Fukasaku, the male sage, croaked at the blonde ninja. Shouldn't you be defending Konoha against the fox? You don't have time to be jabbering with us. We're flattered you think so highly of us, really we are, Shima, his wife, added. But without a human sage to team up with, the two of us won't be much good against a Biju. Perhaps if young Jiraiya was here, but you are not ready. You'd turn to stone, boy. Minato responded by firmly palming the head of each of the honored sages, and forcibly turning them to face the battle taking place in the smoking crater that was once Konoha. Fukasaku's protests over the disrespect died as he choked on his pipe, while Shima made a strangled noise deep in her throat. What? When how? Shima sputtered, eyes wide. What did you do, Minato? A man in a white mask attacked the village. He ripped the nine tails out of Kushina. We fought, Minato explained shortly, and then that showed up. The demon fox blasted it in the back, and they started fighting. Do you know what it is? How I can beat it, or at least drive it off? If I wasn't staring at it right now, I wouldn't believe my eyes. Fukasaku worried at his cloak with both hands, voice faint with awe and fear. His pipe lay forgotten by his feet. You, Minato boy, have either the best or the worst luck I have ever heard of. How you managed to attract the attention of the Dragon of Symmetry, I didn't think it existed. That thing is a dragon? Though now that they mentioned it, Minato could see the resemblance. The serpentine body, the flight, the gouts of energy erupting from its mouth, and the wing-like tendrils extending from its body looked sort of like what dragons were described as in the really old stories. It wasn't exact, but oral histories are unreliable at the best of times. So how can I beat it? A weakness in the old legends? Or can it be sealed like a biju? Seal it? The audacity it technically could work, I suppose, but I can't imagine what vessel or seal could possibly hope contain it, Shima analyzed, and if the legends, passed down from the time of the Sage of the Six Paths are true, it is the Dragon of Symmetry, of Balance. Were it to be imprisoned, something terrible would happen to the world. This dragon is no mere biju, mighty yet still a part of this world. It is something more. And something less. Its very existence is a contradiction. So then what can I do? Minato pleaded, please, give me something, anything. I can't let Konoha be destroyed. If the legends can be trusted, the dragons of creation are not unreasoning creatures, Fukasaku offered uncertainly. While the Dragon of Symmetry is said to be the quickest to anger, and the longest to hold a grudge, it can be negotiated with. Assuming you have not done anything to earn its enmity, you might be able to talk it into leaving peacefully once the fox is dealt with. Faint hope, I know, but it is all I can offer you. Namikaze Minato was dying. He knew he should be concerned about that, fighting for every second of life with his son, with Naruto, who he had doomed to life as the demon fox's living prison. But setting up a sealing ritual capable of containing the most physically powerful of the biju on a battlefield of gods, watching his beloved wife sacrifice the last of her life to give him the chance he needed, and shielding Naruto from the fox's desperate final strike with his own body had left Minato feeling empty. Maybe it was the internal injuries talking, or the fact that his entire body below the waist was no longer attached to the rest of him, or the unearthly dragon hovering before him that Minato somehow had to convince to not annihilate Konoha and Naruto before he died of his crippling wounds and chakra exhaustion and summoning the Shinigami. Any one of these would have killed Minato. All of them together. Yet the duty of the Hokage was to defend the village and its people, all its people, with everything he had to give. And Namikaze Minato, the fourth Hokage, still had a few words left. Hey, Lord Dragon? Minato respectfully projected as best he could. Fortunately, his lungs seemed to be intact. Now all he had to do was ignore the excruciating pain, and how he'd much rather spend his final minutes saying goodbye to Naruto. If you could not destroy the village and just go back to wherever you came from, that would be fantastic. Much to the crippled Hokage's surprise, he actually got a response. One of the great, red-clawed tendrils snaked its way down and touched him on the forehead, and suddenly Minato felt great. In fact, he felt better than he had since before the Third Great Ninja War, well-rested and healthy and whole. Then, he sat up on fresh legs and saw his dismembered body lying next to him. Oh. And now the dragon was in a silent stare-down with the Shinigami himself. Well, if Minato hadn't been already dead, and his soul already sold to the death god, he might be worried about that. Except that that particular contract was apparently not as airtight as the ninja had believed. With a distinctly petulant swish of its robe, the Shinigami, the god of death himself, actually backed down from the dragon's glowing gaze. With no words exchanged, not even much in the way of movement, the dragon had convinced the Shinigami to back down. Minato had evidently interested a much bigger fish than even Fukasaku had believed. He wasn't anything like certain of the hierarchy of the gods, but he figured the patron of death had to be pretty powerful and prestigious. Yet the dragon had just casually browbeaten the Shinigami into submission like it was nothing. And now it was turning back to him. Well, his spirit anyway. The dragon's golden beak opened along a vertical seam, revealing the mouth behind. Minato was uncomfortably reminded that the dragon's mouth was large enough to fit him several times over, and then it spoke. So the sages were right about that part at least. Namikaze Minato, the dragon actually dipped its head slightly as it spoke his name, the depth of the bow suggesting that it was addressing a respected inferior. Though the dragon's voice had sent chills down a living Minato's spine, the spirit Minato heard a very different tone. Though its voice filled the air with the weight of its immense presence, it also spread fingers of warmth through the dead man, filling him with things he thought he'd left behind the day his mother had joined his father on the memorial stone. How a dragon the size of the Hokage monument that had terrified him moments earlier managed to convey home and safe and kin just by saying his name was mystifying to the former Hokage. Then, his keen observational skills honed in on where the great dragon hovered above the burning ground. Specifically, he saw how the flames passed through the dragon's body without burning it, or interacting in any way. Could it possibly be that this dragon was a ghost? The spirit remnant of some greater kami, as he was what remained of Minato. Well, that explained how it had phased through most of the fox demon's attacks. Lord Dragon, Minato reciprocated, bowing deeply in respect. It is my pleasure to make your acquaintance. He lost nothing by being polite, after all. Well met, Namikaze Minato, the dragon rumbled. I am Giratina, Lady of Symmetry. You do not know me, nor my brothers. The old tales have been lost. There are more of you? Minato asked. He was pretty surprised that the dragon was apparently female, but long experience with Tsunade and Kushina suggested that he should just accept it and move on. After all, Fukasaku had said that Giratina was quick to anger and never forgot a grudge. Still, if there were other dragon gods out there, he felt like he ought to know. There are none like me, the ancient dragon assured him smugly, but my brothers are responsible for stabilizing space and time. With the powers you and the masked man displayed, it is thanks to them that your battle did not end 3 weeks ago, in Kumo. Ouch. Minato made a note to start praying more, though he wasn't sure what he could do. After all, the dead can't go to a shrine and ask a priest about gods no one's ever heard of. Why did you save me from the Shinigami? Questioned the former Hokage. I sold him my soul for services rendered. I was perfectly content to go to my fate. Once he'd kept Giratina from finishing off the village, which now seemed like it wasn't going to happen. I am the sovereign of all ghosts. That dusty old sliver of Darkray's power cannot supersede my claim, the dragon declared. I appropriated your contract from it. Your battle with the masked man sent disturbances through my home in the distortion world. It is clear to me that isolating myself from the affairs of the lower realms was a mistake, one I now seek to rectify. But the world has changed much since my last visit. You will advise me in these matters. Okay, what was Minato going to do, argue with the ghost kami that owned his soul? Wait, what about Kushina? And the other people who died during the attack? Shouldn't their ghosts be around here too? They have already moved on, the dragon stated. Your unfinished business and my power anchored you to this world in your current form. The others departed hours ago. If she is willing, though, I may be able to reunite you with your wife at a later time. So you don't plan on finishing off what's left of Konoha? Minato confirmed. Having spoken with Giratina, he was pretty sure she didn't intend to go on a rampage, but it was best to be certain. I have done this village a great wrong in my anger, she solemnly confirmed. It is beyond my power to restore the fallen to life or to rebuild what I have destroyed, but I would make amends where I can. Well, then let's stick around for a few days, the former Hokage suggested. Maybe we'll find something we can do to help. Assuming you can keep from being noticed. If you stick around, you'll probably get attacked by the survivors. It turned out that Giratina could render herself invisible to living eyes, and float through walls, and masquerade as a purple-haired human with red eyes. And Minato could do the ghostly infiltrator thing too, though he couldn't make himself visible. Kami and man had walked all over the village, observing the aftermath of the disaster. As Minato expected, old Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, took up the office once again. The old man did a very good job, for the most part. But his treatment of Naruto. Hiruzen kept Naruto's parentage secret, for which Minato was thankful. If Hidden Stone had known that Minato had a son, Naruto wouldn't have lived out the year. If the Tsuchikage had to sacrifice half his village to make it happen, and Konoha was in no condition to fend off an invasion. But the old Hokage also told everyone that Naruto was the living prison of the nine-tailed fox. Didn't Sarutobi know how Jinchuriki were treated at the best of times? Much less when their prisoner had just killed a good fifth of the village. At least he'd realized his mistake a few days later, and decreed that none of the village children should be told. Naruto might be able to make a few friends his age. And putting him in the orphanage? Well, whichever clan managed to adopt poor Naruto would doubtlessly use their possession of the Jinchuriki as a hefty political card, so Minato couldn't really blame Hiruzen for that either. The man was old, and tired, and grieving his wife and countless subordinates. The greatest curse of the Hokage was always that it was your responsibility to save everyone, yet you never truly could. He couldn't even blame Kakashi, his surviving student, for failing to take Naruto in. Oh, he had at first, but a few hours of observation shed additional light on the situation. Kakashi was broken. You wouldn't see it unless you knew him very well, but losing his teammates and sensei, his entire social circle, to war and the demon had shattered the child soldier like brittle glass. The man could barely care for himself, let alone an infant. But Minato was dead. No matter how much he might like to, he would never again touch the living world. There was nothing he could do. Giratina, though, was under no such limitations. Of course, the dragon couldn't stick around all the time. Her very presence could have unpredictable effects on the living after long periods of exposure, and anyway, she couldn't spend that long outside the distortion world. And she had already spent a potentially unhealthy amount of time around baby Naruto, ensuring that he stayed safe until things settled down. Naruto's Uzumaki constitution and demon-powered immune system would probably protect him from the dragon's ghostly aura, though. Still, Giratina had a debt to pay. To Konoha and to Minato. And though she was not being coerced this time, Giratina hated feeling beholden to anyone. If she was inclined to serve, well, it was unlikely that she would be a ghost type. Or consigned to exile in the distortion world. Plus, that kid was pretty cute. For a human. And a nice kid like that most certainly did not deserve to be treated like he was, even if it was actually better than how most other villages treated their living prisons. Giratina, the renegade kami, knew all about being a pariah. And though she had chosen her path, she would not wish even a pale reflection of her burden on anyone else. Even Giratina could not see what the future would bring. That was Dialga's job, after all, but Uzumaki Naruto was clearly set up for a life of hardship and adversity from the day he was born. Surely there was something she could do to help with the trials ahead. A few weeks later, after Giratina and her new vassal returned to the distortion world, a massive, ornate scroll appeared on the Hokage's desk. After reading it, and the attached letter, Sarutobi Hiruzen promptly sealed it away in the scroll of Kenjutsu, filled with techniques deemed too dangerous or immoral for use. He then made a beeline for the nearest bar, and proceeded to spend the rest of the day, and the next day, and the day after that, very, very drunk. Upon reading the letter, having heard about the demon's attack and finally made it back home, Jiraiya joined him. As the message instructed, they would take the contents of that letter to their graves. Chapter 2, Life Lessons with Auntie G. By the time he turned 7 years old, ready to enter the Konoha Ninja Academy, Uzumaki Naruto had already learned many important lessons that would serve him well in the years to come. The first lesson he learned was simple, but would leave deep marks on the young boy's personality. Most people didn't like Uzumaki Naruto. And there was absolutely nothing he could do about it, for the moment at least. He tried being nice. He tried not being nice. He tried pranking them. He tried not pranking them, and in hindsight he probably should have done that first. He tried acting every way he'd seen other kids act, and all the stuff he'd seen adults do that he'd understood. Nothing had worked. So until he could find something that did work, Naruto had to be content with the few people who liked him already, like Old Man Hokage, and Uncle Jiraiya, and Sakura, and Hokori the Snake, and Auntie G. The second lesson Naruto learned was that he needed to become the Hokage. After all, everybody liked the Hokage. Whenever he showed up somewhere, even if it was the crotchety old grocer near Naruto's apartment who never let Naruto buy anything, everyone was happy to see the Hokage. And they did whatever he said. So, if Naruto wanted everybody to like him, the best way was to become the Hokage. Then people would treat him like that. The third lesson was perhaps the hardest for a young Naruto to understand, but it changed him in ways that only the first lesson could match. Being Hokage was more than just having the admiration and respect of everybody in the village, Naruto realized. You also had to care about everybody in the village, even if they didn't like you. When Old Man Hokage told him this, and Jiraiya confirmed it a week later, it didn't really sink in. After all, Naruto wasn't sure he wanted to care about people who didn't care if he lived or died. And Auntie G thought caring about people who hated you was stupid. Hokori the Snake, being a snake, had no opinion on the subject. All he ever said was Drahini, which was kind of strange. But he was a cute snake, so that was okay. Sakura was the one who'd convinced Naruto in the end. He was walking home one day when he chanced on her, surrounded by other girls. They had Sakura in tears by talking about her large forehead, which mystified the young boy. After all, if you have a big forehead, doesn't that mean you have room for a big brain? And wouldn't that make you smarter? Isn't that a good thing? Actually, once he'd thought about it, Naruto wished he had a big forehead too. So he said so. And he didn't back down. Because once the Hokage says something in public, it happens. There's no going back. Even if it was to somebody important from somewhere else, and you regretted it later. So Naruto had to mean everything he said too. It was good practice, and he was inclined to be stubborn anyway, so it worked. And when he saved Sakura, she didn't hate him anymore. And that in turn led Naruto to his fourth lesson: if he saved people from stuff, sooner or later they would want to be his friend. That was how it worked. The Hokage protects everybody in the village. And so, everybody wants to be the Hokage's friend. It was obvious. So in the meantime, he had to become a ninja so he could protect as many people as he could and thus make as many friends as possible without being Hokage. After all, people who wanted to be his friend without being saved first, like Old Man Hokage, Uncle Jiraiya, and Auntie G, were rare. so Naruto had to do the rest himself. Naruto's fifth lesson? His Auntie G was awesome. And kinda scary and strange, but that was okay, because she was just so nice to him. And she was around so much. Old Man Hokage was always around, sure, but he was busy being the Hokage, and that was a lot of work. He could never talk for long, or spare as much time as he or Naruto wanted. But Naruto understood. Being the Hokage was a big responsibility, and the Hokage can't go back on his word and stop doing his job even when he wants to. Uncle Jiraiya was cool too, but he only came every few months, and at seemingly random times. He would give birthday presents months late, though they were good presents, really. Naruto still used that frog wallet, and his beloved copy of Tales of a Gutsy Shinobi had fallen apart after the 30th reading. Fortunately, Old Man Hokage knew someone who could fix books, and didn't question the claw marks from when Auntie G read it to Naruto that one time. But Auntie G came every weekend, and sometimes more often if it was a special day. And that was awesome, and so was she, even if she was strange. After all, she insisted she wasn't a ninja, but she totally was. When they went out together, only the really good ninjas could even see her. Like those Uchiha police guys and those Hyuga. Everybody knew they were great ninjas, and some of them could. Of course, they always flinched and then left as fast as was polite when they did see her, but that just meant they couldn't stand the awesome. And Crow Mask Guy and Dog Mask Guy could see her too. Naruto knew they could because they fell off the side of his apartment building the first time they did. He hadn't seen them since, but he felt like they were still around. After all, great ninjas like Auntie G were only seen when they wanted to be, and Naruto bet the masked guys knew that ninja skill too. Auntie G certainly didn't look like a civilian, if you could see her. She had wild purple hair, and this big gold collar, and her eyes were red and glowed in the dark when she tucked him in at night, and she had a spooky voice that made something in his stomach twitch, and she was so cool. And she would take him out around the village and tell awesome stories about crazy weird animals with ninja powers and actually listen to what he had to say. Sakura didn't listen very well, cause she always thought she was right. To be fair, she often was, but it was still kinda annoying, not that Naruto was going to say that. Jiraiya never listened either, cause he always thought he was right too. But he wasn't nearly as often as Sakura, and he kept disappearing and turning up hours later at the hot springs covered in cuts and bruises. Naruto figured this was because Jiraiya had a smaller forehead, so he wasn't as smart. After all, if you keep going to a place when you know you'll get hurt, that's pretty dumb, right? Auntie G also got him Hokori, Dusty in Japanese, the snake, named because he had to slither around in the dirt because he didn't have legs and dirty seemed like a less nice name. Hokori wasn't much like other snakes. For one thing, he was blue. For another, he had a big head, with fins where his ears were, and a big, white nose. Also, he could make noises, but only squeaks or sang Dratini. The Inuzuka vet Naruto had talked to had been quite mystified, especially by the last fact, as snakes don't have vocal cords, and so should only be able to hiss. Hokori was also really smart for a snake. Naruto was pretty sure other snakes couldn't learn to fetch, or poop in a litter box, or any of the other tricks Hokori picked up really fast. Auntie G said that way when she couldn't be around, Hokori could keep Naruto company, which was great, because he was cute and friendly and smart and very, very huggable. Suffice to say, Hokori didn't live up to his name very often, as he would usually hitch a ride on Naruto's head or shoulder. He also helped with those bullies that one time by wrapping around the biggest boy's eyes so he couldn't see while Naruto and Sakura tripped the older child, which made Naruto think that Hokori might be even smarter than he acted. But that was okay, because this was a ninja village. Everybody had secrets. If Hokori wanted some too, Naruto couldn't blame him for that. The snake rarely left Naruto's side. Today, though, was the bestest day ever, as far as Naruto was concerned, because today was the day that he got to enter the Konoha Ninja Academy, his first step toward becoming Hokage. And everybody was here. Old Man Hokage had to be here, of course, to greet the new ninjas. Sakura was here because she wanted to be a ninja too, like her best friends Naruto and Yamanaka Ino. And Hokori had to be here, because he was always with Naruto and Naruto was here. But Auntie G and Uncle Jiraiya were here too, standing on either side of him. Uncle Jiraiya had this goofy grin on his face, like he hadn't had a happier day in years. Or maybe whoever kept beating him up at the hot springs had just hit him really hard on the head. It was hard to tell with Uncle Jiraiya. As for Auntie G, he could only see part of her face over that gold collar she always wore, and she wasn't a very expressive person to begin with. He thought she looked happy. And maybe proud? It was hard to tell. But if Naruto closed his eyes and pretended really hard, just for a few minutes, it was almost like he had a real mommy and daddy standing behind him, like almost everybody else did. Even if his daddy couldn't see his mommy, which made him wonder if Uncle Jiraiya was as good of a ninja as he claimed to be. After all the really strong ninjas could see her. Like those Hyuga over there. And yep, Q-choke, flinch, and cold sweat, just like clockwork. But then Auntie G said something she'd already made him promise to never repeat, caused the new Hyuga student and her baby sister took one look at Auntie G and broke down sobbing. Crap. What do we do? Naruto asked, watching the crying girls with wide eyes. You gotta make it better, Auntie. Naruto was firmly of the belief that Auntie G could make anything better. And as he said her name, Uncle Jiraiya's smile turned kinda flat, and he started looking around. But Uncle Jiraiya made funny faces a lot, especially when he saw Naruto talking to Auntie G. If it is truly important to you, you should do something yourself. Else, let their father handle it. That is his responsibility, after all. Auntie G always talked like she didn't really care, but then she acted like she did. This confused Naruto for a while, but old man Hokage helped him understand. Some people had trouble admitting they liked stuff, so they'd act all prickly cause they didn't realize how much they really cared. Usually, it was because they'd been alone for so long they didn't know what to do now that they weren't. Old man Hokage said that Auntie G had probably been alone for a really long time, like Naruto would have been if not for her and Uncle Jiraiya and old man Hokage and Sakura. Old man Hokage was so smart and wise, maybe even smarter than Sakura. Naruto hoped he didn't have to be that smart and wise to be Hokage. He didn't think he could pull it off. Of course, he also didn't understand why Auntie G was so reluctant to help. But you're, really good at this. And they won't want my help. They took one look at me and started crying. You could not possibly do worse than I, Auntie G told him firmly, so go help. Indulge your urge to save people from the world. Her next words were in a fainter, bitter tone that Naruto wouldn't have heard even if he wasn't already threading his way through the crowd, Hokori bouncing on his head. Give yourself the chance I never had. Hey, don't talk like that. Life cannot possibly be as bad as you make it out to be. Half the world would commit seppuku just to get away from it all. Raising the eyes of her human guise, Giratina traced the arm around her shoulder to a white, fire-trimmed coat supporting a mop of yellow hair. Turning her head slightly, the dragoness slammed an infernal glare laced with all the bitter fatalism of billions of years of exile into the side of the ghost's head, where it bounced off his cheery grin to no effect. The other half would be the obnoxious optimists like us Databane, the ghost to Giratina's other side elaborated, digging a friendly elbow into her ribs, and the really hard-headed types like you and our son, of course. I made my choice long ago, the only one that truly mattered. I ascended. I touched the heavens. I fell. I was content in my exile, Giratina whispered, but now, I have seen and felt what I sacrificed so long ago, and I find myself wondering what might have been. The dragoness allowed her human eyes to close, nestling her head into the collar so like her true form's beak in a vain attempt to conceal her emotions. She might have not showed anything on the human image she wore, but the fourth Hokage was not that easy to deceive. Well, I freely admit that the circumstances are less than ideal, but I for one am glad you got to see some of the material world with my son, Minato comforted, giving the shape-shifted Kami a squeeze that practically buried her slight form in his billowing trench coat. How did it billow when wind passed through him? Minato chalked it up as one of the great mysteries of the universe. And speaking of which, both my wife and I are ever so grateful for what you've done for Naruto. Especially since exchange seems to have gone both ways. Besides, stuck in the distortion world for billions of years with just your mirror trick and a few visits a century from your brothers and that pink cat thing, what's it called, Mew? The other human ghost, Uzumaki Kushina, punctuated her statement with a theatrical yet heartfelt shudder. I'm amazed you stayed sane. The fresh air and new sights are doing you good. Your words are kind, but the danger is great. If Arceus discovers that I have been circumventing my punishment, he will not be so understanding. The dragon Kami's stance filled with tension, and she seemed to shrink inward as she spoke. My father likes his creations to believe he is kind and full of mercy, but I am the enduring remnant of what he considers his greatest and only mistake. My every visit puts Naruto in grave danger. What? Based on what you've said about him, it seems out of character for Arceus to murder anyone in cold blood unless the universe itself is at risk, Minato analyzed. Where's the motivation? He killed me. The first and greatest of his creations, his only daughter. He told me he would love me always. Then he ripped my soul from my body while my brother stood in silence and cast me out of the perfect world he created, always to watch, never again to be. Giratina's human form wavered like a heat mirage, but she took a deep breath with simulated lungs and with titanic effort reined in her emotions. Even were my banishment lifted this day, I will never again experience the true beauty of what creation has to offer. I will never feel the air rush past my talons in glorious flight, sport with my brothers in the open sky, summon the fires of creation themselves and mark the universe with the sheer joy of my existence. Arceus has his perfect world now. There is no place for imperfect beings. So if you're such a terrible danger to Naruto and everyone around, and things were so much better before, then answer me this databang. Kushina interjected triumphantly. Why do you keep coming back? Giratina's eyes lit up, the shadows gathering about her like a heavy cloak, sending icy fingers down the spines of even those who could not see her in any form. By the end, you and your son will likely wish I had not. Meanwhile, Naruto approached the Hyuga family, already racking his brains for anything he could do to help the obviously terrified girls. It would sure have helped to know what Hyuga saw when they looked at Auntie G. Sure, she looked kinda scary to Naruto too, but the good kind of scary, like when Dog Mask Guy arrested that crazy dude who broke into Naruto's apartment. Dog Mask Guy was plenty scary, but he was between you and the other scary stuff, which made him a good kind of scary. So what did he do? Well, maybe Auntie G was right and he should let their father do it, but the guy didn't seem to be helping much. He looked really distracted, kinda jiggling the baby in his arms a little and muttering at the older girl while he stared into the distance. That seemed to work well enough for the baby, but not for the older sister. What could he do? He'd never tried to calm someone down before. Auntie G, Uncle Jiraiya, and Old Man Hokage never needed it, and the only time Sakura had, he'd saved her from some mean older kids, and that had been enough. But he couldn't save the Hyuga girl and make everything better that way, because he didn't know what to save her from. Well, Hokori always made Naruto feel better. Girls liked cute things, right? Hey, Hyuga girl. I'm Naruto. Nice to meet you. Not waiting for a response, Naruto unwound the clingy snake and thrust him close to the girl's face, much to the surprise of girl and snake. Wanna see my snake? Naruto stared at the girl. Hokori stared at the girl. The girl went cross-eyed to keep Hokori in sight. Hokori electrocuted Naruto. In his excitement, Naruto had swung the poor Pokemon around quite vigorously, and squeezed him rather harder than intended. Hokori had tried to wriggle out of the uncomfortable grasp, but to no avail. Acting off of instincts rarely needed before in the young Dratini's fairly peaceful life, the dragon reached for the tiny spark of raw power inside of him and pulled just a little bit of it to the surface, sending a disabling current through his captor. Fortunately for Naruto, Hokori was neither an electric type nor anywhere near the power even a mature Dratini possesses. And Thunder Wave is both the least powerful of all electric moves and not actually meant to cause permanent harm. Giratina carefully chose Naruto's partner/pet as the most child-friendly of the dragons and ghosts she ruled. Agumi had also been a possibility, but through no fault of their own they use slime on everything they touch. Naruto's personal hygiene was already questionable at best. So until he got a lot bigger and stronger, Hokori wasn't actually capable of hurting Naruto even if he wanted to, and the small dragon would have been horrified at the thought of attacking the human he'd grown up with. But being startled, distressed, and only 10 years old himself, Hokori also had no way to resist the instincts that demanded he respond to a potentially dangerous situation with violence. Sure, he was small and scared and more than slightly queasy, but he was still a dragon. His flight instincts only extended as far as learning to fly once he evolved and retreating from ice and fairy types until he learned a steel move. And so, Naruto got zapped. Naruto's muscles spasmed before locking up, releasing Hokori, and the immobilized boy teetered before falling onto his side with a faint thunk. Now free, and more than slightly concerned for his friend, Hokori slithered up to the paralyzed blonde. Making worried squeaks, the Pokemon prodded Naruto with his nose. Having only fought once before by blinding a bully years ago, Hokori neither realized he knew Thunder Wave nor recognized what it was. All he knew was that he'd been afraid, and then all the blood rushed to his head and Naruto was left twitching on the ground. Unsure of what to do but hoping to help, the dragon coiled up on Naruto's head, making comforting noises. That thing just electrocuted my son Databane. What the hell were you thinking giving him something that dangerous? It is just Thunder Wave. Besides, it will wear off in a few minutes. He will be fine. Probably. Sure enough, a few minutes later Naruto regained enough motor control to climb shakily to his feet. By this point, the Hyuga girls had long since been steered away from Naruto. The Hyuga hadn't liked him even before he snuck orange dye into their hot water boiler one night, and gave the entire clan an impromptu makeover with their morning showers. However, Naruto had something more important on his mind than the absent family. Hokori! The boy cried out in glee, hugging the bemused Dratini close. I didn't know you were a ninja snake. This is great. Now we can be ninjas together. Naturally, since Naruto was only quiet when Anbu or the Konoha military police were after him, everyone who might possibly be interested in the blonde's comment heard it. Ninja snake? I must have misheard. Unless Enko reproduced? A spectacled genin filing student profiles in the next room overslapped his cheeks to drive out some vaguely disturbing thoughts, before carefully straightening his glasses again. No, not a chance. Still, I ought to make time to speak with the Uzumaki boy. It never hurts to be careful after all. You believe the Uchiha boy and the Hyuga girl to be your greatest competition? Understandable deductions, son, but ultimately flawed, a heavily dressed man told the similarly attired boy leaning on the wall next to him. Verbal communication with other Abirame both needlessly wasted time and could be listened in on. It was much more efficient to send pheromone signals between the colonies of Kikaicha beetles nesting within father and son. Why? Observed the Uzumaki boy. Though his sunglasses hid where his eyes roamed, the smaller Abirame indeed focused on Naruto for a few minutes. Uzumaki? I do not see what you do, father. The only remarkable thing about him is his snake, which does not seem to do much. Even an Inuzuka dog of that size would be more useful. Aside from that, his mannerisms are rather amusing. You look, Shino, but you do not see, the older beetle master stated. The Uzumaki acts the fool very well, but that snake is no mere exotic animal. That is a summon, permanently bonded to this world in a massive exertion of trust and chakra. The summon clan that supplied him trusted the Uzumaki enough to bind one of their number to our world to watch over the boy. In exchange for being able to stay nearby at all times, the summon loses the ability to return to their home when badly wounded. This revelation stunned Shino into silence for a few seconds. One of the reasons that summons didn't mind being called into dangerous situations was that they would teleport back to their native realm when their lives were in critical danger, meaning they almost never died in service of their summoner. A summon willingly binding itself to stay permanently, and experience all the dangers of ninja life alongside its master, was practically unheard of. But what possible reason would a summon clan have to trust Naruto so greatly? Safely concealed behind his coat's collar, Shino allowed puzzlement to cross his face. He just narrowly avoided injuring the summon by falling on it. Whenever he goes out catching fireflies and caterpillars, he forgets to feed them, and they die within days. And that was just awful. He has fooled you, son, as he has fooled nearly everyone here. Lord Jiraiya and Lord Hokage have seen his true self, the older man explained, but not as deeply as the civilian girl there. Shino's father indicated a slight, pink-haired girl who looked like she would drop out within months. Why? They look and act the fool to masterfully conceal their true strength. I have observed them passing coded messages through body language across this crowded room. The Uzumaki boy has already taught his young summon a useful lightning jutsu. He is 7, and he already understands enough of elemental jutsu, a skill usually only seen in skilled chunin and jonin, to teach one to another who cannot use hand seals to control the jutsu. Only Uchiha Itachi, Hatake Kakashi, and Sarutobi Hiruzen have shown such potential before. So keep a close eye out, son, and befriend him if you can. Uzumaki Naruto could be the greatest ally you ever acquire, your own colony exempted. Understood, father. Kami, is he actually trying to attract attention? He's going to get himself killed the first time he steps out of the gates. The academy will beat the worst of it from him by the time he graduates if they have any competence at all. If they cannot, Jiraiya has survived 50 years with similar habits. Wow, your kid has a lot of growing up to do, Databane. And I though you were a dork in the academy, Minato. My kid? You're just as culpable as wait, you really thought that? I thought Makoto was just messing with my head. Well, she probably was. Hey, Naruto, right? The living Uzumaki spun around at the tap on his shoulder to stare into a pair of slit, yellow eyes topping a friendly, fanged grin. Did you say you have a ninja snake? That's awesome. I've seen loads of ninja dogs, but I've never seen a ninja snake before. Can I see him? Do I know you? Naruto wasn't usually inclined to be paranoid or intentionally rude, but other people simply did not start conversations with him. It never happened. Never. Oh, sorry. I'm Inuzuka Kiba. Of the Inuzuka clan. The other boy didn't seem fazed by the chilly response. I just got excited that there's someone else with a ninja animal in the class. I thought the Inuzuka were the only ones in Konoha who did that. Well, aside from the Abirame, but just between you and me, they're kind of gross. Uzumaki Naruto Databeo. Naruto enthusiastically introduced himself, then slumped his shoulders. Dang it. Another for the change jar. NDG insisted that he learn to speak properly, or she would be displeased. When Naruto did things that made NDG displeased, he had the privilege of donating a little of his allowance to the change jar. If he ever managed to go 6 months without saying anything that made her displeased, though, he'd get the money back. And there was no point in trying to hide it, because she'd know. Still mourning the loss of some of his hard-won cash, Naruto unwound his snake from his arm and held the animal up for inspection, careful to be much more gentle than before. This is Hokori. He's an awesome snake. He can zap people. You named him Dust? Really? What kind of name is that for a ninja snake? Kiba snickered. That's not cool at all. Huh. I've never seen a snake like that. I guess the rest of him makes up for the name. Hey. I was like 3, okay? And now that he knows it's his name, he won't respond to anything else. Fortunately for the boys' budding friendship, Naruto was easily distracted, in this case by a tail slipping out from under Kiba's shirt. Can I see your dog? Sure. Kiba reached under his shirt and pulled out a small, fuzzy, brown puppy, cradling him carefully with both hands. This is Akamaru. He's little now, but someday he's gonna be even bigger than your snake, and we're gonna be the best ninjas ever together. You mean the best ninjas aside from me and Hokori, Naruto corrected. Obviously, Kiba was wrong, and they couldn't both be the best ninjas. It didn't work like that. You jerk, Kiba growled, or at least he tried to. It came out as more of a squeak, so he tried to regain his momentum by grabbing the front of Naruto's jumpsuit and pulled him in close. Hokori was forced to make a leap for the pair of shoulders coming up behind the boys and a stable perch. You'll never beat me and Akamaru. Whack. Crack. Kiba and Naruto both went down, hard, identical bumps adorning their heads, while Haruno Sakura stood behind them, a triumphant expression on her face and a heavy, hardcover book clutched between her hands. Spirits of the Trees, a complete history of the Senju clan. Ouch. Hokori, his tail securely wrapped around her waist and his head nestled among her pink hair, squeaked out a smug scolding. Do you idiots really want to fight before classes even start? Dummies. Morons. If the sensei saw you fighting, you'd have a bad reputation from the first day. She grabbed an ankle apiece and started dragging the squirming boys toward the next room over. Akamaru followed clumsily, occasionally tripping over his own paws as he tried to keep up with the girls' longer strides. Come on, lame brains, Sensei Mizuki wants all the students in the next classroom over. If you don't show, you'll have to wait for next year. The way you two pay attention, I'll be an awesome ninja before you even get out of school. So there. Phhhhh, from her position next to Jiraiya, Inuzuka-san made a sound like a deflating balloon as she stifled a laugh. I think our knuckleheads are in good hands with that one, Jiraiya. See? Nothing to worry about. Gwahahaha. The Toad Sage, under far less social pressure than his companion even in a room full of clan heads, let his laughter out, just like me and Tsunade, except she wouldn't have needed the book. Yeah, Naruto's gonna be just fine. Making friends already, just like his old man. Uchiha Itachi's eyes narrowed by a few degrees as he watched his brother Sasuke follow the pink-haired civilian dragging the protesting Jinchuriki, and resigned Inuzuka air out of the room. Cautiously, the older Uchiha swept the room with his Sharingan, picking up the unsettling, purple-haired stranger that infrequently followed Naruto around. Before he'd seen her for himself, he hadn't really believed Lord Hokage's warning about the being that had forced its way into Naruto's life. Neither had Captain Hatake, but they believed now. At first, Itachi thought the being was using some kind of genjutsu to stay hidden from everybody but Naruto. However, that theory didn't hold up. Even when he pointed the illusion and the person out to genjutsu experts like Yuhi Kurenai, they were unable to spot Naruto's anti-G. Only Hyuga and Uchiha with their eyes active could see her. Lord Hokage himself couldn't perceive the entity, though he always spotted her right away by watching Naruto's mannerisms and using that to approximate her location. The Hokage could hear the mysterious woman though, which no one else but Naruto seemed to be able to. Itachi suspected that whatever technique she was using could exempt selected people from its effects. He also suspected that Hyuga saw something different than he and his clansmen did. Yes, the woman was freaky, not that any Uchiha would unbend their pride enough to admit it. Her glowing, red, not Sharingan eyes, the way shadows clung to her in an almost loving embrace, and the fact that she sometimes forgot to breathe when Naruto wasn't looking her way added up to a disturbing image. But Itachi had learned to trust his gut instincts, and they told him that there was something more there. He also occasionally saw flashes of yellow and red around the being, and once observed her drawn from her feet like an invisible person had grabbed her. Lord Hokage and Naruto both had no knowledge of these other invisible people. And the Sharingan could not see them, though maybe the Byakugan could. Itachi could not allow potentially dangerous, probably non-human beings to infiltrate Konoha. As a consequence of his other mission, he now had a tool that might let him see what he once could not. So, Uchiha Itachi carefully checked his surroundings to make sure no one could see what he was about to do, took a deep breath, and activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. And stumbled back to lean shakily against the wall, a gasp of shock escaping his iron self-control. Because he had been absolutely, horrifyingly right. Where the woman had stood, now floated a monster. A very familiar monster. He had seen the creature once before, on the night the Kyuubi attacked. The night the village groaned, and shook, and nearly was lost forever under the footfalls of the nine-tailed Biju, and its massive foe. The very same monster, which only avoided crushing the Uchiha compound underfoot by not having legs, was in this room. More frighteningly, to his newly enhanced perception, the being actually seemed to be warping space in the room, extending it with roiling shadows to accommodate its bulk. The creature's glowing, red eyes, the only commonality between its disguise and its true self, burned in the darkness, without any of the illuminating clarity their light should have produced. As Itachi watched, the monster's fearsome tentacles lashed about the room, passing through the humans nearby with no apparent effect. And the thing noticed he could see it. It turned toward him, and hovered closer, the room warping and shifting to allow it passage, though the people in the room did not move aside. Creature and ninja stared at each other through glowing red eyes. And then the thing spoke. Uchiha Itachi. It was at this moment that Itachi, veteran ANBU and one of the most skilled ninja Konoha had ever produced, did something he had never done before, and would never do again. He panicked. Itachi prided himself on his ability to keep his cool even in the most trying situations, but a reality-warping, Biju-fighting monster trying to initiate a conversation pushed him over the edge. He'd, in the span of a week, accepted orders to kill his entire family for the treason they planned to commit, made contact with Uchiha Madara himself to get help with said killing. Itachi was good, but he wasn't that good. Yet, watched his best friend commit suicide to unlock the full power of his eyes, barely managed to convince Councilman Danzo to let him spare his brother, and now this. Not only was the thing the Kyuubi's ally, which helped the demon destroy the village, but it had deceived the Hokage into letting it infiltrate Konoha. If the Hyuga could see its true form, it was clearly securing their silence somehow, because the Hokage would know otherwise. Besides, even if the Hyuga were forthcoming and could see its true form, what could they do? Taijutsu, even the gentle fist, is of limited use against something that big. Only ninjutsu and jinjutsu, Itachi's specialties, had any hope of being actually effective. He couldn't leave the village now. They'd be defenseless against this thing. Itachi didn't know where Danzo, his contact and handler for his final mission, was at the moment, so that meant he had to go straight to the Hokage. As the academy opening ceremony was over, the elder Sarutobi ought to be in his office in the administrative sector. Without stopping to consider how it might look to the people around him, Itachi leaped from the nearest window, ignoring the fact that it was closed at the time. The Hokage needed to hear about this, now. He fled. I said his name, and he fled. I am not that scary. Am I? Hate to be the one to break it to you, Databane, but you kinda are. What I would give to know what he was thinking, though. He never seemed like the type to act without careful consideration. Plus, he's seen you with his Sharingan before, and he didn't react anything like that. I wonder what he saw. Lord Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen turned at the familiar voice to see Uchiha Itachi, covered in scratches and bits of broken glass, hurl himself through the open window of the Hokage's office. I have acquired critical intelligence that directly impacts my current mission. Your current mission? Hiruzen took a sip from the teacup he was nursing in between piles of paperwork. I don't seem to recall you being on a mission at the moment. And what sort of critical intelligence could you have possibly gotten escorting your brother to his first day of school? No. That mission, Itachi attempted to clarify. The Hokage raised an eyebrow, and gestured for Itachi to elaborate further, raising his cup again. Was Lord Hokage really going to make him go out and say it? Sure, the Hokage's office was absolutely secure, and the Hokage could likely trust his personally selected ANBU bodyguards with any secret, but forcing Itachi to state the parameters of the mission he wished with all his heart he could decline was just cruel. I beg your forgiveness, Lord Hokage, but I cannot in good conscience carry out my mission to terminate the Uchiha clan. There. He'd said it. The nine-tailed fox's ally in destroying the village has returned, and is infiltrating the village disguised as Uzumaki Naruto's imaginary friend Anti-G, as I have reason to believe my Mangekyo Sharingan is the only thing in the village capable of effectively combating the creature. I cannot be exiled for any reason. We must alter our plans. The Hokage did a spit take. An actual, real-life spit take. One of the ANBU blurred into sight, handkerchief raised to catch the flying liquid. Then, he registered what Itachi had said, and keeled over in a dead faint. Faint thumps from around the office signified other ANBU straightening up or falling out from where they had concealed themselves. Sarutobi Hiruzen carefully wiped his mouth, taking his time so he could process what the young Uchiha had just told him. However, the first thing that came into his mind still seemed like the best thing to say on the subject. Terminate the what? Chapter 3. A Long Journey Begins. Why the heck do I always have to explain this stuff to you, Naruto? Can't you read? Haha, of course I can read. What kind of stupid question is that? Only idiots can't read. I can read, Naruto blustered. Kinda sorta mostly. The boy seemed to wilt in his seat. Look, kanji are hard, okay? From his position next to Naruto at the long table in the academy library, Hokori rubbed his head against Naruto's shoulder with an encouraging gratitude. Really, Naruto? Sakura buried her head in her hands, voice muffled but recognizable. How do you think you're going to pass if you can only read half your assignments? At this rate, you'll never even get out of the academy. Hey, it's not like ninjas need to know all this stuff. What good was history and math and all that crap in a fight anyway? And, he finished in a mumble, it's not like there's anyone to teach me. Oh man. There's just so much stupid in that sentence. How do you expect to read your mission scrolls then? Or recognize an explosive tag? The young girl plunked her own writing book, covered in neat notes, in front of Naruto. I'm not sure why this is my job, but I'll see what I can do to help. Hokori, always interested in what Naruto was doing, peeked over the boy's shoulder. This was something he couldn't have done when he and Naruto first met. The Pokemon had grown quickly in the 6 months since Naruto had started school, putting on another 3 inches of length and an inch of girth. Plentiful exercise plus a more substantial diet from mooching school lunches and meals from sympathetic Inuzuka had triggered a massive growth spurt. The Dratini studied the printed characters carefully. He'd seen humans and other Pokemon write before, but never tried it himself. His parents had taught him to read, but writing was seen as a waste of time until he got his arms. If living with Naruto had taught the dragon anything though, it was that there's no such thing as an insurmountable obstacle. Making sure that the humans were busy with their book, Hokori quietly shifted a pen and a notepad from Naruto's backpack down the table. Holding the pen in his mouth, he carefully traced a sequence of remembered kanji on the paper. He hadn't really meant for anyone to notice, but Sakura as always was highly observant. Wait, Hokori? You can write? I guess you really are a neat animal, Sakura admitted, blushing a little. She hadn't believed Naruto's stories about lightning snakes and super awesome snake ninja skills, chalking them up to the boy's highly active imagination. While this was by no means an unfair assumption, it was still a little embarrassing to have said so in front of someone who could understand you. Heh, sorry about that. Teach me to make quick judgments. Dratini, Hokori agreeably accepted the apology, T.N.I. So what did you write? Sakura curiously pulled the notebook back down the table, bringing the Pokemon sitting partially on it along for the ride with a startled squeak. Oh. Dratini, you're hilarious. Figures that Naruto's pet would have his sense of humor. Hokori sniggered breathily. Naruto didn't understand what was so funny. I'm under a genjutsu? Are you certain? Even if the Hokage himself was saying it, Uchiha Itachi found it hard to believe. After all, he was one of the foremost genjutsu experts in the village, and he had the Mangekyo Sharingan. No illusion could possibly get around. Oh, that was a really good genjutsu. Nothing less could have snared a mighty Uchiha so flawlessly. Damn it! Kai! Ha, that got it! Naturally, once he noticed it, such a weak, inconsequential illusion was no match for his skills. Wait a second. Not bothering with the regular Sharingan, Itachi went straight to his Mangekyo. He pulled the mirror he used to send long-distance signals in the field from his pouch, looked into his own eyes, and forced his chakra in 4 different directions. Kai! That got it. Probably. Although the fact that he wasn't sure he defeated the genjutsu this time was a good sign. As was that he felt slightly different. Not enough that he would have noticed the differences between Itachi with the genjutsu and Itachi without it until the illusion was pointed out to him, but something felt off, now, like his head had suddenly been expanded a bit. It almost felt like he could connect his thoughts just a little better, make choices that never would have occurred to him before, think a little further outside the box. Oh, that was a really good genjutsu. Now Itachi was feeling a little envious of whoever had ensnared him. The insidious technique had actually suppressed his imagination just enough to keep him from questioning his orders, or trying to find a third option instead of either plunging Konoha into a civil war or murdering his family. At the same time, it played on the crippling arrogance that all Uchiha possessed in varying quantities to conceal itself. To top it all off, the imagination suppression had the happy side effect of generating clinical depression over time as the mind became confined by the lack of stimulation. It seemed obvious now that he could have and should have pleaded for the lives of all the Uchiha children, not just Sasuke. He should have confirmed the assassination orders with the Hokage, as per standard operating procedure. He should have used his new Mangekyo to make sure his father and the other conspiring Uchiha weren't being manipulated by the other Mangekyo, which, come to think of it, was probably what had ensnared him in the first place. And he most certainly should have put more thought into the true identity of the extremely dangerous, orange-masked man who had offered to help him annihilate the Uchiha, and was clearly not Uchiha Madara as he claimed to be. For one thing, the clan record suggested that Madara was about a foot taller than the imposter. For another, Madara was infamous for his larger-than-average inheritance of the Uchiha arrogance. He'd never hide his face for any reason, or wear a mask that only exposed one of his mighty Sharingan. Lord Hokage, I think I would like backup when we attempt to trap the man claiming to be Uchiha Madara after all, Itachi admitted. He didn't make mistakes often, but when he did he always took full responsibility. Who do we have who is skilled at blind fighting? 2 ninja did battle with a monster. The ferocious beast's fangs were as long as the ninjas' heads, its claws like knives, its thick fur like armor, yet the ninja were not afraid. Though they were outmassed 10 times over, they did not back down. Where the monster struck out with blinding speed and unstoppable strength, the ninja matched it with teamwork and cunning. When the beast focused on one, the other would rush its flanks, snapping and striking, grappling and tripping. Each time it seemed as though they would be overwhelmed, one fired an arc of brilliant electricity, stunning the creature, while the other produced a score of hazy doppelgangers to cover their retreat. Furthermore, the beast had a weakness. It had lost one of its eyes to a battle long ago, and the ninja exploited the blind spot ruthlessly. The acrid stench of grass smoke, burned by one ninja's lightning jutsu, covered their scent, and their own skills in stealth allowed them the first strike time and again. But even the mightiest of ninja tire, and the beast did not. After 20 minutes, an eternity in pitched battle, the ninja were pinned helplessly, exhausted, under the great paws of their foe. Not bad, whelps. Not bad at all. From his dominating position, a large, dark dog addressed his captives, tongue lolling out of his mouth in a canine grin. At this rate your partners might survive to make Chunin. Of course, you'll be better than that by the time I'm through with you. Great. The smaller dog yipped, my partner can't become Hokage without my help. So bring it on, Kuramura-sensei. Your partner? That's silly talk. My partner's gonna be Hokage. The other recently freed animal disagreed, shaking himself off and coiling up comfortably. You two can be our second in command. Probably what's gonna happen, the puppy whined, your partner is gonna be scary strong someday, Hokori. How does big bro Kiba not smell the fox on him? Kiba's not that dumb. You shouldn't talk about your partner that way, Akamaru, the older dog admonished. I'm positive he will grow into his, everything soon. After all, Tsum was no different. And don't be so hard on poor Kiba for not smelling it, no matter how obvious it is to you. After all, Kiba might be an Inuzuka, but he's still human. Your nose will always be superior. I can't smell it at all, Hokori shared. If Lady Giratina hadn't told me what Naruto has locked up inside, I never would have known. Hey, you've got stuff I never will, Akamaru replied. I mean, you can see colors. How cool is that? I've never met anyone who could see colors before, Hokori. Colors? Akamaru? Humans can see colors. All of them, Hokori informed the puppy. The dragon turned to itch at a spot on his back, and sighed when his nose came away with a few flaking scales. I'm shedding again? But I just got this skin. If I keep growing like this, no more rides for me. Yeah, such a tragedy, having to slither around on your own. Lazybones, Akamaru needled, maybe you'll finally lose some of that chub. Hey! I can't help it. All Dratini look like this, whined Hokori. I'll grow up eventually. Sooner than you, that's for sure. The dragon Pokemon was already close to 3 feet long, and 16 kilos, far larger and heavier than his friend, though both were dwarfed by Kuramaru. How about this? Get out of the academy before you worry about who's going to become the Hokage, Kuramaru suggested. Don't get ahead of yourselves, pups. You can't go straight from the basics to being a Kage. The key to achieving a lofty goal is to break it down into smaller, simpler steps. Yes, sensei, the dragon and the puppy dipped their heads in acknowledgement. Good, Kuramaru's grin grew wider. I can't help but notice, Akamaru, that your middle seems to have picked up something extra. Teasing a friend about it to deflect attention from yourself? Sneaky. But not sneaky enough. Have you been begging table scraps again? The guilty whine that escaped Akamaru was answer enough for the canny, older dog. Laps. Both of you. Get. And don't stop until I say so, or you'll regret it. Kuramaru settled down, head resting on his paws, as his students dashed off, Akamaru's legs allowing him to quickly outpace Hokori's more measured slither. Was the puppy faster? Yes, but Hokori could hold his pace for hours after his friend collapsed from fatigue. Hey, whelps. Enjoy it while you can. Sooner than you think, your puppy days will be gone. What do you mean, you don't want to learn from me? I'll have you know that most of the world would kill for the chance I'm giving you. What are you gonna be able to teach me? How to get the crap kicked out of me by pretty ladies at the hot springs. I think if I really wanted that I could figure it out myself, Naruto snorted, face the facts, Uncle Jiraiya. You suck. You're a cool uncle, but you're a sucky ninja. What? Don't you know who I am, after all the time we've spent together? I am Jiraiya, of the legendary Sannin, the greatest ninja the village has ever produced. And it's most dashing and handsome, if I say so myself. Ha! Jiraiya lashed out a hand and pulled Hokori out of a nearby tree. Nice try, kids, but I survived the second and third ninja wars. Your stealth skills are no match for MO. While he was busy monologuing, Hokori took his chance. The Pokemon narrowed his eyes, aiming for fierce but failing to get past adorable, built up a charge, and zapped Jiraiya, with unexpected results. Unlike his other victims, Jiraiya wasn't stunned by the current. However, all his hair suddenly stood on end with a faint twinge of released pressure. Jiraiya's hair, which was long enough to reach his waist. The hair tie that usually kept the ninja's maintained shot out of the mass like it was fired from a catapult, ricocheted off of several buildings, and nailed the unfortunate Sannin right between the eyes. That, at least, surprised him enough for Hokori to make his escape, before the combination of Jiraiya's hair and expression paralyzed boy and dragon with irresistible giggles. Hate lightning jutsu, Jiraiya grumbled as he tried to get his mane back under control, with limited success, so very much. Alright, that's it. I'm teaching you brats something else so this, he paused briefly to make another grab for a particularly unruly bunch of hair, doesn't happen again. Understand? Both of the Sannins would be students fought to get their giggles under control long enough to respond, finally managing to do so several minutes after Jiraiya successfully tied his hair back again. Like you know any good jutsu, Naruto dissented, if you did you'd be cooler, maybe. Oh ho, so you don't want to learn a totally awesome C-rank jutsu, the sort you usually have to be a genin to learn? Jiraiya hammed up his surprise, already anticipating Naruto's reaction. Oh, well. Maybe Kiba wants to learn from the great and powerful sage Jiraiya. Teach me, oh great and glorious Toad Master, pleaded the boy, bowing rapidly before Jiraiya's feet. Have I mentioned how awesome you are lately? Gwahahaha. That's more like it. The Toad Sage chortled. I guess I can spare some time for my godson. Jiraiya palmed a piece of paper from his pouch and held it behind Naruto's head. As soon as the slip came within a foot of the groveling blonde, it split in half. Huh. His control was even worse than Jiraiya had expected. Uzumaki tended toward large chakra reserves and poor control. So did Jinchuriki. An Uzumaki Jinchuriki? Naruto was lucky his chakra flares weren't blinding every Uchiha, Hyuga, and chakra sensor within miles. But learning an awesome jutsu isn't easy. Jiraiya hedged. You need to take it one step at a time. Allow me to demonstrate. The Sannin made 3 slow hand signs, careful to take it slow so his student could see. He then exhaled, releasing a gust of wind that rattled trash cans in a nearby alley. Wind style, breakthrough. It makes a breeze? What good is that? Naruto was not so easily impressed. I want to learn something awesome. Don't be silly, brat. The sage exclaimed. I held back a lot. At full power, that jutsu can rip trees from the ground. The more chakra you use, the stronger it gets. And even a weak jutsu like this is a challenge for a brat like you. Don't you know why elemental jutsu usually aren't taught to academy students like you? They are. I think? Naruto turned the question over in his head a few times. That jerk Sasuke did all his target practice by breathing fire that one day, then he almost passed out from using too much chakra, and Mizuki-sensei got really mad. Shikamaru has this shadow thing, but I think he can't use it for long. Are those metal jutsu? Elemental, brat. Metal jutsu are something completely different, and only a few ninjas from Sunagakure can even learn them, Jiraiya corrected. And the reason is that most academy students don't have enough chakra to use much ninjutsu, or the control to get them to work right. You've got plenty of chakra, I made sure of that. No godson of mine is getting chakra exhaustion from a training exercise. So you need to work on control. Chakra control? Like the leaf thing? The boy asked. But that's so boring. Except when the leaf explodes sometimes. It's probably not supposed to do that. That it is not. But don't worry. Like me, you've got too much chakra for finicky stuff like that, the sage explained. Most academy standard exercises are designed so anyone can do them, and for most of the students that's exactly what they need. But you and I, we've got too much chakra for them to be useful. That's why I'm going to have you climb trees without using your hands. You need a lot more power for this one, so it ought to work well for you. Plus, it's the dead useful in the field. Alright. I can't wait. But first, can you show me those hand signs again? I want to make sure I've got them right so I can practice, Naruto requested. When Jiraiya nodded agreeably, the ninja in training moved closer, squinting in concentration. He was going to get this down. My guy. Why did it have to be my guy? Itachi had no doubt that his fellow Jonin was the best blind fighter in the village. The Uchiha just wasn't sure his mind and personality would survive learning from that particular basket case. Now, Itachi had no illusions as to his own sanity. In fact, he was pretty sure that as he was willing to murder his entire family for the good of Konoha, genjutsu or no, his sanity was pretty much non-existent. The third member of their little task force, Hatake Kakashi, was no stable, well-adjusted individual himself. But my guy! The man paraded around the village in green spandex and orange leg warmers, sporting a boy band bowl cut and the most uniquely unsettling eyebrows Itachi had ever seen, prattling about fire and youth and tortoises. Even more disturbing, Guy had seemed to pick up a cult following among the worst of the academy students. And his idea of a light workout had sent 6 different chunin to the hospital. Alright. Now that we have stoked out fires of youth with a youthful warm-up, we shall begin preparing to combat this rogue Uchiha and his most unyouthful tactics. Guy bellowed, apparently his only method of communicating. You could hear the capital letters. Don't worry, Kakashi, having seen past Itachi's reflexive, stoic, masking expression, patted the younger Jonin reassuringly on the back, his visible eye still trained on his cheery, orange book. You build up a Guy tolerance with repeated exposure. Or you crack under the strain, so if you find yourself looking for ways to insert words like fire or youth into everyday conversation, you should probably find a rock name or kusa to crawl under and detox for a few years. Kakashi, you asshole, that doesn't help at all. Itachi's eye ticked, but he managed to restrain his reaction to a neutral HN. Sometimes you can't beat the classics. Good. Kakashi crinkled his eye up in an upside-down U, and flipped a page in his book. I'm glad we had this little talk. Okay, scratch that. Itachi was totally sane. He just had trouble establishing a frame of reference because he was surrounded by lunatics. Ack. Naruto stopped cold. Why? He was in the middle of a spar with Uchiha Sasuke, and the bastard had just finished the hand signs for that jutsu. The one that set stuff on fire. And Naruto knew for sure because he was really close and there was no way Sasuke could miss with his puff of hot air. Now totally off guard, Naruto barely even noticed the incoming hands, until Sasuke grappled his opponent and bodily flung him from the academy sparring ring. Victory by ring out, Uchiha Sasuke. Iruka-sensei, the new second sensei, called out. Next match is Naro Shikamaru and Haruno Sakura, and if you slack off, Nara, your mother has authorized me to poke you with this stick every time I think you aren't paying attention in class. You'd enjoy that, wouldn't you? The boy groaned, slowly, painfully prying himself from his seat. More than I should, yes, Iruka confirmed with a sunny grin. Ugh, troublesome, but Shikamaru stepped into the ring, bowed to Sakura, and assumed a fluid, slightly droopy guard. Let's get this over with. Hello, Uzumaki Naruto. Do you require assistance? Naruto pulled his head out of the dirt, to have his vision filled by a pale, unfamiliar hand. Kiba was on the other side of the academy grounds, confined to time out after he sunk his growing fangs deep into Akamichi Choji when the large boy pinned Kiba in a submission hold. So who was this? Naruto looked higher, seeing the signature gray jacket and dark sunglasses of Aburaim Shino. Which was strange, because Shino never talked to him. In fact, as far as Naruto could tell, Shino never talked, period. Did you hear me? Oh, right hand? Naruto grasped the offered help, and used the leverage to pull himself up. Sorry. Shino, right? Naruto was only mostly sure he had the name right. After all, it wasn't like they'd ever talked before. Yes, the quiet boy confirmed, and I could not help noticing something about your spar earlier. Yeah, I'm gonna kick Sasuke's butt next time, I swear. The Jinchuriki exclaimed, that bastard won't get the best of me again. It is likely that he will, Shino disagreed. Why? Because the Uchiha has received and will receive personal training in hand-to-hand from his clan. I have observed you practicing, but practicing alone is almost as valuable as no practice at all. What? You jerk. Here I thought you were nice. Naruto turned away with a huff, but I'm not sure what you said, but it was jerky. So there. Shino's shoulders slumped slightly. It seems I am not very good at this. Why? The results speak for me. And I should not be surprised. After all, 2 bees from different hives will not understand each other's dance. Now Naruto was really confused, and it showed. Shino's forehead furrowed as he tried to think of a different way to state his thoughts. Would you like to join me to improve your taijutsu at the Aburaim grounds, Uzumaki Naruto? Huh. Now, Naruto was totally lost. Did Shino like him or not? What the heck was going on? I noticed that you favor a taijutsu style that focuses on speed and agility, the base form of the 4th Hokage's modified crane style, Shino observed, But I do not believe you or I are suited to such a style. What? But the fourth Hokage created this style. And he was the best Hokage, so it must be the best taijutsu, right? Naruto reasoned, otherwise the fourth wouldn't have used it. I do not dispute that the Ascendant Crane style was the best style for the fourth lord, explained the Aburame, but a style that relies on Namake's Minato's famous speed and agility is not well suited for ninja like us, who are not particularly fast. A more measured style, possibly from the Aburame Mantis or Beetle styles, would be far more effective. Why? I have observed you to be very strong, tough, and adaptable, qualities these styles require. So you want to help me get better at taijutsu? But why would your clan want to help me? Why would they just help? There had to be a catch. I require a sparring partner, Shino stated. Why? My father has informed me that I cannot advance further without someone around my height to practice with. In exchange, we would instruct you. Ah, really? Awesome. Quite. Not fast? My son. He'll be the fastest ninja in the elemental nations. Don't just stand there and take it, Naruto. Face it, Minato, Bug Boy is right. Just means Naruto got more from me than you, Databang. Such a great boy, talking after his mom. More from you? He looks exactly like me. But the way he sounds? The way he acts? Oh, he's an Uzumaki through and through. Now if we could just get Pervy Sage to get him started on sealing. What? That's way too dangerous. He's just 7. Old Frog Face is already pushing it with that wind jutsu. Hey. Shove over. You're hogging the mirror, Databang. I want to watch too. I am not. You can see just fine. Besides, you can see right through me. Ghost, remember? Oh, I could see through you long before you were dead, dear. I cannot leave you alone for 5 minutes, can I? Do I need to suspend your mirror privileges again? Ack. We'll be good. I swear, Databang. Uchiha Itachi staggered through the front door of his family home, his usual impeccable appearance having deserted him days ago. He was coated in mud, bugs, bruises, blood, and other things he didn't care to identify. Sticks and leaves and a few leeches adhered to the coating, and he didn't bother to dislodge them. A solitary shuriken, still stuck in the armored plate protecting his left shoulder, rattled as he plodded forward. Intellectually, Itachi knew he shouldn't be wearing his ANBU armor home, but at this point actually changing clothes sounded like entirely too much work. The only clean spots on the Uchiha's entire body were a pair of bloody tear tracks trailing down from his eyes, mementos of his realization that he didn't actually know what his Mangekyo Sharingan did. Itachi made an abortive twitch toward a seat at the kitchen table, before deciding the floor looked way closer and more inviting. With a pathetic groan, he toppled over onto his face, sending the shuriken skittering under the table. The thing promptly exploded and flipped the table, and the flying furniture missed Itachi's foot by inches. Kami, damn it, Kakashi! Wasn't that? Itachi refused to dignify that by calling it a jutsu, bad enough? By the sage! Oh, what happened to you, Itachi? Uchiha Mikoto gasped in mild horror, practically tripping over her dripping son as she came in, a bag of groceries balanced on her hip. We aren't under attack, are we? Steel suddenly glinted in her free hand as her eyes glowed Sharingan red. Training. Dogs. Guy. Pain, Itachi moaned, never volunteer. Never. Ah. I remember those days. His father, Might Die, could be quite the taskmaster, Mikoto related, smiled back and Steel abruptly gone, though her eyes remained active. Those were rather trying days, but he was still the best Jonin sensei I could have hoped for. Oh, that is odd. What's odd? Uchiha Fugaku asked, coming through the door with a significantly larger load of food and actually tripping over Itachi. Good gods, boy, what the hell did you lose a fight with? You look like you got road-hauled by one of those giant tigers from Training Ground 66. Maybe I have been pushing you too hard lately. If you need a few days off. I was. Kakashi. Guy. Wire tricks. Itachi groped under his leg, removing a particularly sharp stick, didn't lose. Draw. Training. Owl. I swear, I can almost see it. While Fugaku efficiently checked his son for crippling wounds, Mikoto remained still, muttering to herself. It's right there, but I feel so out of practice. How long has it been since I last used my Sharingan? She stiffened, eyes wide, and shuddered slightly, before straightening. Mom, Dad, I'm home, brother, what the heck happened? Sasuke's school bag fell from nerveless fingers as he beheld he seen in the kitchen. It's not the Kyuubi, is it? Because what else could leave Uchiha Itachi, the best ninja in the world now that the fourth Hokage was dead, in Sasuke's humble opinion, in such a state? Kyubi, Mikoto breathed, "Oh, Kushi-chan, what have I done?" Then she smiled. It didn't look any different from all the other times she'd done so, but the killing intent she released alongside it practically bludgeoned the other Uchiha into the floor under its sheer presence. "Sasuke, be a dear and fetch your little friend, Uzumaki Naruto. The clan has need of his services for a few minutes." Under any other circumstances, Sasuke might have protested that the dunce was in no way his friend, and that anything Naruto could do, Sasuke could do better. However, under the current circumstances, all he could manage was a strangled squeak before he ran off to follow orders. Since when was his mom so scary? "Fugaku, honey, can you go fetch my good sword while I slip into something more comfortable?" "Itachi, once Sasuke gets back with Naruto, keep him here until your father and I return, okay? We need to have a little talk with Shimura Danzo about proper interment of my favorite nephew's remains." In the privacy of his apartment, a young man slid 3 strips of a papery, white substance into individual test tubes, and carefully sealed each one with wax and a cork. He turned to 4 tiny, white vipers patiently waiting on the floor behind him with an inscrutable expression. Carefully, the man allowed each viper to swallow 1 test tube, before giving the 4th a tightly rolled scroll. "I have acquired the samples Lord Orochimaru requested," the man whispered, adjusting his glasses in a nervous habit, "far more than we needed, I think. If this doesn't go through, please ask our Lord to send more messenger snakes." "What?" "Oh, don't worry," the man reassured the letter-bearer, having seen something questioning in the reptile's expression. "I procured the samples from Subject N's trash can. Nobody cares about a few bits of shed skin. They don't know what they've got right in their midst." "But we know, don't we, little one? And what we know, so does Lord Orochimaru." Chapter 4. With a single step. It is not for nothing that in the time of the Warring States everyone but the mighty Senju clan feared above all else the Uchiha on the warpath. Entirely aside from the fact that they could steal your greatest techniques, that many could drop the most powerful ninja with a glance, and the proverbial Uchiha fondness for setting things, and people, on fire, it was and is widely acknowledged that every single Uchiha is vengeful to the point of mental instability. Right down to the cute little Uchiha kids. Sure, as allies they were dependable, loyal, and very handy to have around, but as enemies? Nobody could hold a grudge for as long, or enjoy doing so as much, as an Uchiha. So when the heads of the Uchiha clan kicked down the door to the Hokage Tower, and stalked their way towards the main meeting room, almost no one was foolish enough to get in their way. The sole bureaucrat stupid enough to do so was left twitching on the ground. The only coherent words that escaped his mouth for months afterward? "Those eyes. Great Arceus, those eyes." The door to Konoha's council chamber didn't stand up to the military police standard issue combat boot any better than its comrade at the base of the tower. Sarutobi Hiruzen, in the middle of a tedious series of negotiations over water rights between the Aburame and the Yamanaka, sighed. Now his week was complete. After all, what would life be like if Uchiha Fugaku didn't barge in every few weeks, sword in hand and breathing fire, demanding that the latest perceived slight to his clan's honor be promptly addressed? If not for his wife holding him back, the man would have had to arrest himself for murder and treason 3 times over. The armor was a new touch though, one that the aging Hokage could appreciate. It changed things up just enough to keep it interesting. Hiruzen hadn't seen armor like that since the Second Great Ninja War. Wait a second. Was that Fugaku holding the armored ninja back? "Danzo! Get your decrepit ass down here!" The armored woman screamed, brandishing a sword Hiruzen could swear he'd seen somewhere before. "I'll show you what we do to grave robbers in the Uchiha clan." "Was that Mikoto?" "Honey, you don't want to do it this way. Honey, we can get him legally. Honey, you can't gut him in front of all these witnesses." Fugaku's voice grew steadily more frantic as he tried to restrain his furious wife. "Don't make me stop you from doing something you'll regret later." "I'd like to see you try." Mikoto stabbed her sword into the floor with an expensive-sounding crunch, and the two grappled briefly before she gained the upper hand, and holy shit. Did she just suplex him? Kushina. That's where he'd seen the sword before. It used to belong to her. The moves, especially that last one, were also reminiscent of the fiery Uzumaki. Hiruzen had thought this side of Mikoto buried underneath mountains of grief after the Kyuubi attack. Which begged the question, Danzo, what exactly have you done to incense the Uchiha recently? More than usual, I mean. Hell yes. Now kick him in the Nard's databane. Just get that ghoul alone for a few minutes. I will take care of the rest. Come on, it will not be that difficult. Even if father notices, what is he going to do about it? Kill me? Please don't encourage your friend to strike people there. I may not have them anymore, but I still remember how it feels. Would you believe that this actually isn't my fault? Danzo asked hopefully, before reading Hiruzen's face. He was quite skilled at reading the Hokage, having known him since they served on the same genin team. I wouldn't believe me either. Grave robber Danzo, would you remove the bandages around your right eye for a few moments? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked, even the facade of affability rapidly disappearing. I think I am just as curious as the Lady Uchiha to see what is really under there. Everything I do for Konoha, Danzo croaked. This was not looking good. You know that. The bandages, Danzo, the Hokage refused to back down, now. With a sigh, the retired ninja reached up and pulled the bandages down to reveal an empty, scarred socket where his right eye once was. Are you satisfied now, Sarutobi? What? But I was so sure Mikoto's sword hit the floor with a clatter. But if you don't have them, then where are Shirsue's eyes? Sarutobi Hiruzen's adamantine staff met Danzo's head with bone-crushing force. After I learned of the power of Uchiho Shirsue's Mangekyo Sharingan, the nigh-undetectable Genjutsu Kodo Amasukami, I asked Jiraiya to create a seal that would inflict pain whenever the bearer was put under an illusion. Murder. Conspiracy to commit more. Kekei Genkai theft. Suborning ANBU operatives. Treason, Danzo. There is only one sentence for treason. Be glad I did not have the intelligence division wring every bit of venom from you before I carried it out. You think I am too merciful? The old man leaned heavily against his staff, gazing down at the broken body of what was once his best friend. This is my mercy. Lord Hokage. It's Lord and Lady Uchiha. Something's wrong, Yamanaka Inoichi reported, panic tinging his voice. They aren't breathing. A failsafe? How deep does his rot go? Hiruzen growled, striding over to the suffocating clan heads. Have you detected any medical cause? Poison, perhaps? If I had, I'd be fixing it, my lord. Inoichi ground his teeth. It's like their lungs just stopped working. On a hunch, Hiruzen forced open Fugaku's mouth and peered inside. This was one time the Hokage was not happy to be correct. Root seals. Perhaps Danzo has the key? The body had vanished like smoke, and with an entire clan possibly dying out there, he couldn't afford to give chase. Not when he could save two very important lives. Shibi! Get your clansmen, and lock down the village. Kikaichu everywhere. Nothing gets out without being devoured. Inoichi! I need you to contact every medic in the village with your clan jutsu. They are to remove the tongue and cauterize the resulting wound of every Uchiha in the village who appears distressed. Move, man! Orders given, Hiruzen turned to the clan head and his wife. I am truly sorry for what I must do, he murmured, carefully sterilizing a kunai from the police chief's pouch with the fire jutsu. Danzo escaped. The man who professed to be the greatest patriot Konoha ever produced would go down in history among the foulest criminals in the village's history. Only Uchiha Madara and Orochimaru would ever share the utter hatred directed at Shimura Danzo. Danzo the genocide. And yet he got away. The Aburame teams that closed Konoha intercepted and slew Danzo again, their beetles devouring most of his body. Yet, as in the council chamber, the remains vanished without a trace a few minutes after death was confirmed. Shimura Danzo still lived. The butcher's bill was catastrophic. Before Danzo's insurance seal activated, the Uchiha clan numbered 4,000, including 2,500 active ninja, 600 of which were jonin. 2,000 of these ninja formed the backbone of Konoha's military police. Of those, all the non-combatants survived. Only the active-duty ninja were branded with Danzo's seal. Of those, over 1,800 suffocated, drowned on dry land as their swelling tongues blocked off their lungs. The remainder survived, bereft of their voices forever. 100 jonin, 286 chunin, and 140 genin were near enough to a medic ninja or hospital to be saved. And one ANBU. Uchiha Itachi had not been near any medic who was not already incapacitated by Danzo's curse seal. And so, while Naruto and Sasuke watched, he cut out his own tongue to preserve his life. The village was indescribably lucky that rage, and not stark terror, is what allows a Jinchuriki to draw on the power of the nine-tailed demon fox. The resulting chakra pulse still dispelled every genjutsu within 50 miles. Yet the Uchiha massacre drew the soldiers of Hidden Leaf closer together. In any of the other major ninja villages this would not have been the case. If a traitor had slaughtered most of one of Iwagakure's major clans in the name of the village, distrust would have festered for centuries. The only people who hold a grudge longer than the average Uchiha are the unyielding ninja of Hidden Stone. Sunigekure is little better, though the fear that Gaara of the desert might be driven to rampage by all the blood would serve to unite them somewhat. Kumogakure, having been founded by several groups of wandering ronin with a talent for lightning techniques, doesn't have any major clans in the first place. Kirigakure would have applauded the murderer, and probably given him, or her, a promotion. Konoha, founded on the ideals of trust and teamwork prized by the first Hokage, fell back on these core values. The Aburame and Yamanaka combined their linguistics expertise to create a sign language as extensive and detailed as the spoken word. They then supplied instructors fluent in their new language to every clan in the village and the academy. They even funded and staffed night classes available to those who were not affiliated with the clans. Jiraiya of the Sannin collaborated with the Akimichi clan to provide a seal that would restore the sense of taste of those who lacked a tongue. A speech seal, though, proved a much greater challenge. The Nara and Inuzuka turned out in droves to swell the depleted ranks of Konoha's military police force. The Uchiha had seen to the village's internal security since its founding. They would not fail this responsibility now. The civilian merchant guilds, galvanized by the Haruno and Shimura clans, supplied the funds to pay all the new teachers, and to greatly expand the curriculum of the ninja and civilian academies. They hoped that superior training would allow another traitor to be caught before they could cause so much damage. Previously, the Ninja Academy had not received a generous supply of funds. After all, the clans provided most of their members' educations at home. And affluent civilians sent their children to the private civilian academies or trade schools. In short, far from being weakened by the tragedy, Konoha moved forward a stronger and far wiser village than it had been before. Hey there, GG. Whatcha watchin'? Bahoo, that's a cute human. Gah. Mew. What are you doing here? Got bored. Figured I might as well talk to my favorite sister. I'm your only sister, Mew. So? You're still my favorite. No matter what Arcee says. Daddy's such a poophead when things don't go his way. It's nice to see you too. Uchiha Sasuke could not figure out Uzumaki Naruto. The blonde was an enigma, a puzzling jumble of traits and actions that didn't seem to go together, and far too loud to just ignore. When they first met, Sasuke thought Naruto was an idiot, with absolutely no ninja potential whatsoever. But the boy was also pretty funny, in the way he would constantly disrupt class and skip out for pranks, which backfired as often as they worked. Sasuke thought both outcomes were equally hilarious. But the little details kept piling up. Naruto sucked at bookwork. He absolutely, positively could not sit still, was barely literate, and hadn't found a test he couldn't bomb. Yet his scores on most of the practicals were almost as good as Sasuke's own, and certainly on par with the clan kids. Naruto was clearly a prodigy of anything physical, and he still couldn't hit a target to save his life. His taijutsu forms were faulty at best. He spent twice the effort of anyone else on his reading and tests, and still failed each and every one. He also had enough chakra to cover the entire village in a pulse, upper Jonin-level reserves before he even left the academy, yet couldn't make a single doppelganger, and his substitutions only worked about half the time. 1 week his hand-to-hand skills were abysmal and barely recognizable, the next he came in with perfectly serviceable techniques. And where had a clanless orphan learned rhinoceros beetle-style taijutsu? Sasuke didn't get Naruto. Then, the massacre happened. And Uchiha Sasuke understood. Because the day most of the clan passed on, the day that man took his family's voices, Sasuke gained something. His Sharingan. Even with the first stage of the legendary Kekkei Genkai, Sasuke could see things he never had before. He could see the pulses of thick, red chakra that tore through Naruto's body whenever he used a jutsu, destroying the blonde's fine control. Sasuke could see how Naruto had to go over each passage he read 3 times, because the letters kept moving before his eyes. When the red chakra filled up Naruto's body, demanding he burn it off or explode in place, Sasuke could see that too. And Sasuke could see why Naruto couldn't hit a target to save his life, and why he never took notes in class. That, at least, Sasuke could fix. Hey Naruto! Now that school's over, come with me. Unfortunately, tact was never Sasuke's strong suit. What? No way. I don't like you. You're a jerk. You keep pretending to set me on fire. Plus, Naruto remembered that the last time he'd gone with Sasuke most of the Uchiha had died. Which wasn't Naruto's fault. At least not as far as he knew. But it would explain why all the adults didn't like to have him around. Come on. I only actually did it once. And that was an accident. Mostly. I promise you'll thank me later. Why should I? Naruto whined. Besides, I promised Auntie G I'd meet her after school. Come on, dunce. You're 7. Isn't that a little too old to be playing with imaginary friends? Scoffed Sasuke. You're just making excuses because you don't want to go. Of course I don't want to go with you, Naruto confirmed. You're a jerk. You keep calling me a dunce. I am not. Yes, you are, Sasuke informed his friend. That's why you gotta come with me. I'll make you less of a dunce. Then the Uchiha noticed a shadow falling over him. Oh, hi, big brother. Listen, can we make a stop at Who Are You? Sasuke was pretty sure he would have remembered somebody with purple hair and red eyes and weird gold jewelry hanging around the academy, even without the Sharingan's perfect recall. Uchiha Sasuke. You can see me. I understand it is considered remarkable to gain the curse of the eldest at such a young age. Congratulations. The person's eyes seemed like they were boring through Sasuke's flesh to whatever lay beneath. Please cease bothering my nephew. Oh, Kami, the way it said cease. Hee. What? The hell? Sasuke fell back on the reflexive blank expression drilled into every Uchiha as his brain tried and failed to process what he was seeing. It was pink, and it had limbs. Yes. But what was it? Oh my gosh, they're even cuter in person. Suddenly, it was right there. 2 inches from Sasuke's face. He hadn't even seen it move. Is this one yours, Gigi? Oh, he's so cute. I just want to hug him and squeeze him, and then it grabbed his cheeks and pulled in pain. It took everything the young Uchiha had to keep the agony radiating over his face from showing. No. Naruto is the one with yellow fur. And if you do that to him, I will tell Pal Kia, who keeps raiding his junk food stash. Then can this one be mine? I promise I'll feed him and walk him and let him fight other humans in the Thunderdome for my amusement. Why are you asking me? I have no control over your actions. And where do you get these ideas? Daytime TV. In that case, no. You have never gotten a good idea from the television. What about? I said no, Mew. Fine. He's a weird kid anyway. Who doesn't react at all to my signature cheek pull? Mew pouted. Shalebi told me it was at least a 7 on the "Oh Lord Arceus, save your unworthy supplicant" meter. You did that to Shalebi? No, don't answer. I don't want to know. Just stay out of the kid's life, please. He lost most of his family recently, and you are just as likely to make things worse as better. What? Really? It isn't like the meteor. The one that got Rayquaza his secondary duties to clear the skies. The Great Cataclysm, where so many of your children perished. Extinction. His entire family, a hair's breadth from that. Oh. You're right, Gigi. As usual, Mew blinked a few times, and took a deep breath. No. I'll be good. I promise. But oh. I think I can help. For real. Be right back. Zoom. The creature vanished as quickly as it came. Now, Uchiha. Why were you harassing my nephew? That's what Mikoto's kid wanted. Wait, is that why everybody's target practice scores were so much better than mine, Databane? I don't know, Kushina. But in the interest of testing it, what does that sign over there say? Minato indicated a sign a few hundred yards down the street from where the ghosts were watching their son. Turtlefish jail? Kushina hazarded after several minutes of study. That can't be right. Maybe if I get closer? If it was just the usual Uzumaki dyslexia, you would have still gotten at least one of those words, the 4th Hokage analyzed, so yep. You've got it too. Man, our boy really is cursed. Bad enough that he's got hyperactivity from the chakra the fox pushes into his system plus Uzumaki dyslexia because your entire clan is hardwired to read seals and nothing else. I can't believe I never noticed. Groaned Kushina. It's so freaking obvious, Databane. Well, you've never seen the world differently, her husband suggested. How could you know? I don't everything, so do other people see like this all the time? More or less, Sasuke allowed a smirk to edge through his usual composure. I imagine it's a lot like when I activated my Sharingan. I don't know about that, but oh man, I really gotta apologize to Sakura now. I thought she was messing with me when she said she could read what the teacher wrote on the board. Naruto turned in slow circles to take in as much of his surroundings as possible. This is amazing. How can I don't think I can afford these. Of course you can, the Uchiha disagreed. My parents own this place. They do? Why? Naruto scratched his head. Who ever heard of an Uchiha who couldn't see right? Without the Sharingan active? More than you'd think, Sasuke admitted. We don't get immunity to eye strain or information overload with our Kekkei Genkai like the Hyuga do. Unless you activate the Sharingan early enough like I did in practice lots. Well, there's a reason my family owns the best optometrists in the village. So give me what you can afford to and still have enough for food and stuff, and I'll pay for 'em. Mom would want me to, and you might be a good sparring partner once you can see past your own nose, and I get a family discount. Really? Naruto adjusted his new impact-resistant, ninja grade, prescription goggles, bright orange, naturally, cool. I don't know what to say. Thank him, kid. Oh. Right. Thanks. I know what you did there. What? Sasuke sputtered. Damn, Naruto's not imaginary ant still creeped him out. And how were they related anyway? They looked nothing alike. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. Come on, voice, stop shaking. I mean that there is no way Naruto could have afforded ninja grade prescription goggles with self-adjusting seals in case his vision degrades further in the color and style of his choice, family discount or not. Oh man, Sasuke thought only his brother could manage to put that much menace into slightly narrowed eyes. I also know the difference was quite significant, and that these goggles will likely save my nephew's life several times over once he graduates. Well, Mom told me to do it, and gave me the extra money, Sasuke admitted. She said she knew Naruto's mom back when Naruto's mom was still alive, before the Kyuubi attack. And my mom said she felt really bad about not being able to help, because, I don't know why. But I think it had something to do with that and no, something to do with Danzo, who isn't able to stop her anymore. She said we still can't be too open about it, though, because Naruto's parents made a lot of people in IWA really mad back in the war. With what happened, I can't help but think about what it would have been like if my mom and dad had died. And Naruto, he's never even had parents. I guess I wanted to help if I could. In that case, I think I need to go track down Mew. Even when he thinks he is helping, his idea of helpful might be burying your house in cotton candy because that would make him feel better. A pleasure meeting you, Uchiha Sasuke. I am glad we had a chance to talk. Really mad? Haha, there's an understatement databang. They still checking under that such a kid's granddaughter's bed for you every night, Minato? Last time I checked, yes. Yes, they are. Our target is a man Lord Jiraiya has tentatively identified as Tobi, a dangerous ninja of unknown origin who is mixed up in the civil war in Kirigakure. There isn't much intel on him out of there, but Jiraiya's informant insisted that this Tobi survived a battlefield on which Terumi made the living volcano and Yagura of the Three Tails were present without suffering so much as a scratch. Uchiha Itachi said though none of the ninja in the room had been speaking Yamanaka sign for more than a few weeks, all three were already fluent enough to understand Itachi, who only had to spell out the occasional word. Furthermore, in my acquaintance with him, he not only claimed to be an immortal Uchiha Madara but possessed sufficient skill to back it up. And our mission is to drive him from our village in youthful battle? Might Guy asked that for him, a respectful volume. Not exactly, Itachi responded with a wan smile. Our mission is to kill him dead. And then kill him a few more times, just to be certain. Guy's expression and demeanor abruptly and jarringly shifted. So where do we start, sir? Assassination missions have very different requirements than a defensive battle, Kakashi contributed, book closed but still in hand. If we just wanted him gone, that's simple enough even with an S-ranked ninja as the enemy. But to kill him, we need to keep him from escaping. And according to Jiraiya, Tobi navigated a battlefield containing two of the greatest masters of army killer ninjutsu in the world without suffering crippling damage. I saw Mei fight once. She fires, and everything dies. The Raikage himself barely got out of the area of lethality before it hit, and was burned so badly he was forced to retreat. The current Raikage is the fastest man alive. And Tobi has the Mangekyo Sharingan. He is a rogue Uchiha who watched his best friend die, probably killed him, or her personally. As I discovered, unlike what the tablet in my clan's shrine suggests, actually slaying your friend personally is not necessary. However, he is unlikely to know this. That, though, is why neither of you may open your eyes when battling him, elaborated the loyal Uchiha. Experimentation with my Mangekyo suggests that his does not possess a special genjutsu, which is good for us, as is that he seems to only have one eye. Less good is that we don't know what that eye's special power is. Each Mangekyo offers a unique ability, and both together offer a third. My own eyes allow me to use a genjutsu that, as far as I can tell, is essentially unbreakable, to summon a chakra-intensive but resilient defensive construct, and to generate inextinguishable black fire on anything I see. It is this that we will use to prevent his escape. Once he has been hit with my Amaterasu, it doesn't matter if he runs. And if he is hit with my ultimate genjutsu, my Tsukiyomi, I tested it with the only other loyal Uchiha to currently possess a Mangekyo, and it took her several minutes to break free. Plenty of time for either of you to finish him off. Uchiha Sasuke was not amused. Naruto. The Uchiha screamed as he raged across the playground, immature Sharingan whirling furiously. From its perch on top of his head, the true object and source of his ire enthusiastically ate the furious boy's movements, waving around a long nail with the head wrapped in twine for better gripping like a sword. I don't know how you did it, Sasuke seethed at his bemused classmate, but I know you and that pink thing are responsible for this. Sasuke, I don't know what you mean, Naruto chuckled. It was just so funny how the little green and white thing on top of Sasuke's head acted out the Uchiha's mood, complete with nail waving and squeaky growls, that it was absolutely impossible to take Sasuke seriously. And I have no idea what that is. Ralts. the creature informed them, tapping its chest with the hilt of its nail sword. Don't care. The Uchiha ground out, fix this. Fix what? The Jinchuriki asked. It isn't hurting anything, is it? It won't leave me alone. Every time I try to get rid of it, it just appears on my head again. I can't even take a bath without it following me in. Sasuke swiped at the tiny creature to demonstrate, and sure enough it vanished halfway to the ground, reappeared on Sasuke's head, and whacked him with the dull end of its nail. Please! It tried to stab my cat for climbing into my bed this morning. Okay, so it's kinda like Hokori. Hey. Maybe they can talk. That's ridiculous, Sasuke explained with exaggerated patience. From his head, the Ralts gleefully made scolding motions at Naruto. All it says is Ralts, and all yours says is Dratini. But Hokori can write, and he understands exactly what I'm saying, just like the Inuzuka dogs. It's acting kinda smart. Naruto shrugged. It's worth trying, right? Hey, I'm Hokori. Who are you? I was told my charge would want to provide me with a code name, the Ralts replied, thrusting its nail into its string belt, one I would use until the conclusion of my mission in Konohagakure on behalf of Lord Miu and my superiors. Oh, you're one of those guys. From that monastery north of Johto with all the Galade and Lucario. Hokori realized, so what's your mission? Correct. I am an initiate of the sacred disciples of the Swords of Justice, the psychic stated with pride, pulling a lead locket off his back and displaying the dark stone locked within. Someday I will join them, but until then I have a sacred mission passed down by Miu himself. I am sworn to protect the princess of the ancient and noble Uchiha clan with my life. Princess? What are you talking about? The Uchiha are pretty important here, yeah, but they're not royalty, Hokori questioned, and Sasuke's a guy it's hard to tell with humans until they hit puberty, but I'm sure of it. So a prince? No, more like a noble. But my mission is unchanged, the Ralts vowed. Honestly, my master said Miu might have gotten some of the details wrong. It wouldn't be the first time, but please don't tell anyone I said that. Lady Giratina said the same thing about Lord Miu, so I think it's common knowledge, comforted the dragon. And speaking of Giratina, do you think that you could keep it quiet that she's skipping out on her sentence to come here? She, owes a debt of honor to Naruto's dead parents, he explained, thinking quickly, one she can't fulfill from the distortion world. Very well, I shall not betray her trust. If others learn of her actions, it shall not be from my mind or lips. The serious empath promised, and for the disciples of the swords, our word is our bond. Though I may suffer tortures unending, I shall never betray my oath. Yes, would have worked fine, muttered Hokori, before continuing in a brighter tone, I'll tell the humans, unless you're a fast writer. They never understand us for some reason, but they can read fine. You might want to get a pad or a slate, or something to communicate, unless you've got telepathy down. I shall double my training in the mental arts, the Ralts declared, but for now, perhaps you should handle it. He's basically a samurai, but with less objections to fighting dirty, Hokori scrawled in the dirt for the curious humans. He's sworn himself to Sasuke, services and life if necessary. If you explain to him that you really need privacy, he'll give you it, but you aren't getting rid of him. He takes his duties very seriously. He also wants a code name for while he's on this assignment, like how Naruto named me Hokori. Except that the dragon actually considered his own name to be Hokori, and he felt like the Ralts thought of it differently. He wants me to name him? How about green? Sasuke suggested, the first thing to come to mind. No? White? Picky? Annoying? What would the little thing like? Every time he thought of it, he kept going back to the silly little nail it waved around like it was made of gold and honor. What about edge, as in the edge of a sword? That, apparently, was acceptable. Itachi, good. I was beginning to think I'd never see you again. What happened to completing your mission for the good of Konoha? Though his face was hidden behind an orange, cyclopean mask, the ninja's tone suggested gleefully malicious teasing. Or do you really think you can take the entire clan by yourself in just one night? Itachi? You going to say something? As much as I like the sound of my own voice, this is starting to get a little awkward. Ninja cat, got your tongue? You know, if you get any more stoic you'll turn to stone. Am I talking to myself? No, Lord Madara, I'm here. Tobi's voice went up an octave as he imitated Itachi. You do exist, right? This isn't just my crazy talking? Oh man, this is my crazy talking, isn't it? Here I am, sitting in the forest, monologuing away to my non-existent friend while all the work I did on said friend gets picked apart by old Ibiki and his lackeys. I mean, sure, you and I were inevitably going to fall out in a messy betrayal, but for all that you're the closest friend I've had in years, which is almost as sad as the fact that I'm pouring my heart out to a figment of my imagination. That is, assuming I still have one. A heart, I mean, not an imagination. I know I've got an imagination, because I'm talking to a product of it. But my biology's gotten pretty weird lately, and I honestly don't know if I still have a heart. I'd like to think I do, though. Wait, this is the messy yet inevitable betrayal, isn't it? You're standing right behind me with a knife right now. Toby whirled around, hands raised, and saw nothing. Kakashi dropped out of the trees to the other masked man's left and lashed out with a kunai, aiming for the chest but hitting a shoulder as Toby tried to dodge. I knew it! This is the betrayal. But why? You still need me to Kakashi? What are you? Severe leaf hurricane. Guy's flying kick caught the masked would-be murderer squarely in the torso. Ordinarily, this move would target the head, but when fighting blind the taijutsu expert preferred to aim for contact. Guy, who to test his strength regularly shattered boulders with his bare hands. Toby's body made some interesting noises as it soared through the air to land at Itachi's feet. You brought friends? The masked Mist Ninja groaned as he rose to shaky hand and knees. The other hand clutched at his at least fractured ribs. That is totally bad form for an epic Uchiha vengeance showdown, you know. Demerits for you. Itachi cried tears of blood as he wove a simple genjutsu, allowing a single word to reverberate through the grove around them. Amaterasu. Chapter 5, The Edge of Tomorrow. Itachi cried tears of blood as he wove a simple genjutsu, allowing a single word to reverberate through the grove around them. Amaterasu. I want to be the very best like no one ever was. Rather than screaming in agony as the three-leaf ninja expected, Toby simply rolled out of the black flames, allowing them to burn on the ground beneath him. Itachi tried to capitalize on the opening created when the Mist Ninja stood up again, but passed right through him. An intangibility jutsu? Why hadn't he used it sooner? He could have avoided several fairly serious injuries. Did it have a prohibitive chakra cost? If so, Toby should have been showing signs of exhaustion, and he wasn't. All three-leaf ninja possessed techniques with that limitation, and so were intimately familiar with the effects of using techniques that required more chakra than was wise to spend. Was it difficult to use? Probably not, as he had activated it in the seconds between Itachi projecting the black fire and Toby avoiding immolation. There was no tactical reason to keep it hidden that Itachi could think of, not when using it could have saved Toby from broken ribs. So the jutsu probably had another side effect, one that wasn't immediately noticeable. Maybe it put lots of strain on the eyes or body? Having completed his analysis in a few fractions of a second, Itachi went on the offensive with a lightning-fast taijutsu combination attack alongside Guy. Both leaf ninjas stayed on guard for another intangibility jutsu, but Toby seemed determined to stay solid. The orange-masked ninja instead defended himself with surprising speed and strength, and admittedly impressive physical skill. Odd. His right arm seemed significantly stronger and tougher than his other limbs. He also looked really nervous, and not because Kakashi was lurking around the edges of the melee hoping to snipe Toby with a quick jutsu. The Mist Ninja took great care to keep himself firmly balanced on the ground, and kept looking around, like he was expecting something even worse than being attacked by three of the most formidable ninja in Konoha to happen at any moment. Perhaps the jutsu's side effect was psychological? Some kind of induced paranoia or chemical imbalance in the brain? Maybe, but Toby didn't fight like he was mentally impaired. Itachi ducked under a sweeping palm strike and thrust out with a kunai, but Toby allowed his cloak to billow and tangle the weapon, yanking it from Itachi's hands. While the loyal Uchiha recovered, the Mist Ninja took the opportunity to focus on Guy, exchanging blows briefly before sneaking in a hit with his right arm and sending the taijutsu expert flying. Unwilling to stay alone in melee with someone who, as much as Itachi hated to admit it, was better than him in a fistfight, Itachi substituted with a fallen log to gain some distance. He then generated a shadow doppelganger, and had that swap with the log, so fast as to appear seamless. Toby's single eye was pointed at Guy, so he was unlikely to have noticed. Toby turned back to the doppelganger, and the two engaged briefly while Guy unlatched a set of weights from his ankles and wrists. Kakashi helpfully stepped up his fire support to preserve the doppelganger with a hail of lightning-charged kunai and speedy bursts of high-pressure water that punched through tree trunks when they missed. Itachi added to his foe's misery by summoning a small murder of his crow summons to dive-bomb Toby with saban needles, sharp claws, and bursts of vision-obscuring feathers. The direct approach hadn't worked very well, so why not try attrition? With so many attacks incoming, some were bound to make contact. And Toby couldn't keep from making mistakes forever. Just before the latest feather burst went off in his face, the Mist Ninja noticed a volley of water bursts headed for his right arm. Where had Kakashi learned the Hozuki water gun jutsu anyway? That was supposed to be a secret technique. Toby swiftly jerked his arm out of the line of fire, directly into the path of a lightning kunai. His right arm was severed above the elbow. Itachi smiled slightly. Boom. The shadow clone exploded, throwing Toby backward and forcing him to phase again or break his spine against a nearby tree. As the mist ninja picked himself up again, a high-pitched whine filled the air, rising in intensity as it dopplered closer. Both sides eyed each other suspiciously, wondering, is the other guy doing this? A massive, black creature soared overhead, enveloped in a corona of brilliant lightning chakra. Before the astonished eyes of the assembled ninja, the creature barreled through the canopy, shaking the earth as it landed in an explosive discharge of energy. Apparently deciding that its entrance wasn't dramatic enough, the creature flared its wings and gathered more energy in the beehive-shaped growth on the end of its tail, arcing raw power, as it assumed a rather Jiraiya-like pose. Hail, hero of ideals! Oh no. No. Why does the universe do this to me? Moaned Giratina, her face buried in her inky tentacles. Before her, her mirror's picture displayed the now quite disrupted battlefield. Is this your doing, father? Some kind of grand cosmic retribution for caring too deeply? Anyone but those idiots. What? For once, all four ninja were on the same page. Who? Added Kakashi, a bit faster on the uptake than the others, as he realized how wonderfully nonspecific the creature's statement was. I shall prove my ideals as involute as my skill. You shall not regret your choice. Guy struck a pose too, back ramrod straight, arm extended, and thumb raised toward the sky. Light flashed off his smile with a faint ping. If I cannot, I shall read the entire Konoha Library's philosophy section in just 1 month, and if I cannot do that, I shall continue reading until I have finished. That is a promise. But the being knelt before Toby. You who would shape the world to your ideals, I pledge myself to your service and the future your ideals hold. What is your bidding, hero? The charge in the creature's tail built up further. Shall we drive our enemies from the field in glorious battle? Toby looked from his enemies to the giant monster that was apparently on his side this time, thank the kami. This is what he got for using kami again. The beast seemed to be quite powerful, and adept with lightning style, generally a very close-range type of ninjutsu. Trying to get into close combat against someone with the Amaterasu without total surprise or a teleportation jutsu on your side is suicide. Get us out of here. Now. That was Zekrom, one of the Tao twins. The dumber one, if such a thing is possible. Zekrom and his brother Reshiram wake during times of great strife and select a champion that resonates deeply with their values. Zekrom chooses someone who fights for their ideals with unsurpassed dedication, and Reshiram someone who is similarly enamored of truth. They call them the heroes of truth and ideals, but actually being heroic is not a requirement. Giratina, speaking to the Hokage and the Toby assassination team in human form in the privacy of the Hokage's office, took a few moments to collate her thoughts. If Zekrom has chosen his hero, Reshiram will likely do the same very soon, if he hasn't already, and the idiots will compel their champions to battle each other. Whoever wins, or is the most convincing, will gain the immense power of both twins, which is far greater when united, to fight for their truth or ideals. So we have no way of knowing where and when this other twin will turn up. Nor any way to control or discern where his loyalties lie. Hiruzen fought the urge to rest his face on his desk. He was getting way too old for this. Why couldn't Minato have let his predecessor be the one to seal the fox and finally get some rest? So is there anything at all we can do? Hope the heroes end up killing each other, Giratina advised morosely, and make absolutely certain that the next generations of ninja are as capable as they can possibly be, the better to weather the coming storm. The Tao twins cannot be swayed from their course by anything short of vastly superior firepower, and they always appear when great strife is already on the way. They are a symptom, not a cause, but they rarely bring about times of peace. Hey, you boys ready? Naruto directed an ear-to-ear smile at Yumino Irika, his favorite of the academy instructors. Of course I am. This is gonna be awesome. You can count on us, sensei. We've only been preparing for months, Sasuke groused, fingering his kunai holster, packed full of blunted practice weapons. If we weren't ready, you'd be totally incompetent. At his side, Ha brandished a wooden dowel, a less dangerous stand-in for his customary nail, and issued a shrill cry of challenge. Hokori responded with a menacing hiss. The Dratini had grown significantly in the 3 years Naruto had spent in the academy, and was now close to 5 feet long, approaching his full growth. Not that anyone living in Konoha, Naruto and Hokori included, knew how big Dratini could grow. Well, I keep reminding you because you two get rather competitive at times, Irika explained, so I'll say it again. This is an exhibition match. Your job is to give an impressive, controlled, and skillful display of what upper-level academy students can do. Enlistment rates always go up after a good exhibition. Which means no strikes between the legs, eye gouging, or sneaking sharp weapons into your pouches, Irika informed them, And yes, Sasuke, this means you. Keep it friendly, understood? Whatever. He heals fast, scoffed Sasuke, until Irika gave him a look. Fine. The Uchiha dug into the pouch at his hip and handed over 3 kunai, a spool of razor wire, and Ha's nail. But I want that stuff back afterwards. It's not against the rules unless I use it on somebody anyway. And Naruto, Irika turned to address the snickering blonde, whose mirth at Sasuke's grilling quickly disappeared when the sensei's attention moved. If it would get you arrested in a civilian village, it is forbidden. No centerfold jutsu, no pranking supplies, and no glitter. No glitter. Hey, that stuff's legit ninja tactics. Naruto protested, it works great. Maybe so, but it's not what parents want to see when they're considering enrolling their children in the academy. Irika did his best to fix his point in the students' heads. So keep it clean, keep it safe, and do your best. I'm sure you'll do great. Oh, and Sasuke? Knife. And the Saban. All of them. Che. Sasuke unstrapped matching Saban holsters, a sheathed tanto, and another nail from under his arm warmers and handed them over too. Almost got them past you, the Uchiha muttered in satisfaction. Keep telling yourself that, and you'll get killed on your first infiltration mission, the sensei reprimanded cheerfully. Now go make me proud. Naruto, Sasuke, and their Pokemon squared off in the traditional academy round, surrounded by current and potential students. Naturally, the students, who knew the fighters by reputation and sometimes by acquaintance, began cheering for their favorite. Sasuke's supporters, attracted by the prestigious Uchiha name and Sasuke's enviable skills that put him at the top of the class, were more numerous. But Naruto's fans, won over by his pranks and jokes or simply drawn to an underdog, certainly had volume. Kiba alone made enough noise for 10 children. Sasuke moved first into the guard position for the Uchiha intercepting fist style. He angled his body and slid one hand up to guard the face and the other down to protect the groin. Beside him, Ha took up a kendo stance with his dowel and raised his spirits with a squeaky growl. On the other side of the ring, Naruto lowered himself into the Aburame rhinoceros beetle-style guard he'd learned from Shino. He assumed a wide, stable stance, hands close to his body and protecting the face. At his feet, Hokori sprawled with deceptive laziness, the position actually allowing faster acceleration than the Pokemon's customary coil. The two humans glared into each other's eyes, and then Sasuke moved first, the single tomo in his Sharingan whirling slowly. Neither genin favored a particularly aggressive fighting style, but Sasuke's Uchiha Taijutsu was far more offensive than Naruto's borrowed techniques. Sasuke feinted a wild right at Naruto's head, then reversed into a backhanded blow that met Naruto's blocking forearms with a dull thud. Naruto took a few steps forward as Hokori snaked his tail behind Sasuke's legs in an attempt to trip him, but the dragon was forced to withdraw his tail ahead of a kiai from Ha, visible thanks to the fairy-typed energy permeating the shout. Sasuke smoothly retreated while Ha grasped a rock twice the Ralt's size in a psychic grip, hurling it forward and to Naruto's right. Until Sasuke substituted with the rock and sent it crashing straight into the Uzumaki's guard. Naruto was forced to spend a few seconds shaking off the hit, times Sasuke exploited ruthlessly. The young Uchiha still couldn't perform the grand fireball without the full chain of hand seals. However, the relatively long prep time also let Hokori figure out exactly what Sasuke was planning. This wouldn't be the first time he tried to set Naruto on fire. The dragon took a deep breath, drawing from the blazing draconic energy in his body, now more a roaring bonfire than a spark. Then he exhaled a spiraling vortex of air, crackling with power, that blew apart the fireball, exhausting itself in the process. Hokori started to prepare a second twister, but Ha distracted him by wrapping the Dratini over the nose, sending the winds wide. Not really bothered by the dragon-type attack, the Ralts continued his assault with an elaborate Kenjutsu kata that, as per the rules of the spar, Hokori had to treat as a viable threat. After all, Hokori could shrug off hits from the light dowel, but he couldn't take too many of the deep, for someone his size, stab wounds Ha's nail would inflict. Meanwhile, Sasuke had to scramble for safety from Naruto's own winds, as the blonde had finally learned wind style, breakthrough. While wind jutsu are usually a really bad idea against an Uchiha, since they make fire techniques stronger, Naruto had a crucial advantage. Wind style, breakthrough needs a maximum of 2 hand seals. Fire style, grand fireball cast by a novice like Sasuke needs 8. Even though Sasuke had faster hands and advance warning from his Sharingan, Naruto was still quicker on the draw. The wind jutsu swept across the ring and the onlookers, stirring dust and leaves, and drawing an appreciative "oh" from the audience. After all, being able to learn elemental techniques before even leaving the academy was usually restricted to Uchiha, and their unusually strong affinity for fire. All else aside, this showed that Naruto was a prodigy in his own right. It had taken him 2 years to learn the jutsu, but he had nonetheless. And Sasuke couldn't copy it because he didn't know how to make wind-style chakra, even though he'd certainly seen the jutsu done enough times. Instead, the Uchiha lit up a dye stick and swept it through the air in front of him. Dye sticks are harder to use than smoke bombs because they need external ignition and to be waved around to cover an area. On the other hand, they release obscuring material for 30 seconds a stick, and the material is much heavier and harder to blow away than more conventional smoke. Perfect for fighting a wind adept. From the cloud of dye stick, slightly purple Sasuke's charged Naruto. Having already received some genjutsu training from his family, Sasuke could modify his clones to look like they had actually passed through the dye. Having finally securely wrapped the scrappy rolls, for the moment at least, Hokori fired another twister to clear the clones, and popped all 6. The dye cloud cleared, revealing the Uchiha's original position, but no Sasuke. Naruto turned about, trying to spot his opponent, while Hokori had to focus on keeping his prisoner well constricted. Where could Sasuke have hid without getting a ring out? Wait, was that hazy patch of air there before? Sasuke's half-functional concealment genjutsu collapsed as soon as Naruto realized it existed, but the Uchiha had no way of knowing that Naruto had broken it, not unless Naruto reacted like he had. Sasuke was good at illusions for his age, but not that good. Especially since the technique had only worked this well due to the illusion-amplifying power of the Sharingan and Naruto's complete lack of skill in the offensive mental arts. So Naruto made a show of cluelessly panning his head back and forth, while Sasuke snuck closer. At least until the Uchiha got within reach. "Ha, take this, bastard!" Naruto yelled, snaking his hands through Sasuke's lax guard. Thinking himself invisible, Sasuke hadn't held his stance, and he was going to regret that now. Naruto levered the Uchiha's hands apart, grabbed the front of Sasuke's shirt, and slammed an elbow into his face. The Uzumaki then slid a foot behind one of Sasuke's and cracked him over the head again, accompanied by a shove. This time Sasuke tripped over the well-placed limb, and went down hard. Naruto quickly spun his foe around and pinned Sasuke under his weight. Sasuke wiggled impotently, but was unable to reach his weapon pouch. Ha teleported out of the wrap, having finally focused through the pain long enough to use his powers, only to be promptly thunder-waved. The Ralt's psychic powers shared the paralyzing effects with his opponent, but the outer layers of the Dratini's skin cracked and fell off, leaving him unaffected. And whatever Ha had traced apparently wasn't that particular ability. Crap. Ha attempted another confusion, the only thing he could do without moving, but Hokori tipped the paralyzed Ralts over, face first, disrupting his concentration again, and then sat on him. Sasuke, having had a good view of this from underneath Naruto, finally sighed and tapped out. "Not bad, Naruto. You have validated my decision to share knowledge with you yet again." Shino congratulated his friend on a successful demonstration. "This makes it 11-31 in Sasuke's favor, yes?" 32, the Uchiha corrected. "The dunce is getting better, but he's not there yet. Maybe by the time we're ready to retire he'll be close to my equal." "Ha! I'm gonna be the best ninja in the village someday, just you wait," insisted Naruto. "That's how I'll become Hokage. You and Kiba can fight for the number 2 spot." "I'm sure you'll become Hokage," Sakura affirmed, if only because Sasuke doesn't want to. "Correct," the Uchiha agreed, eyeing the girl in discomfort. "I have absolutely no desire to become Hokage." "But you were awesome out there, Sasuke," Yamanaka Ino flattered, "so strong and skilled and handsome." "I'm sure that was just a fluke," Sakura added. "Naruto just got lucky. You're amazing, and—" "If you told me what I did wrong that would be more helpful," Sasuke cut them off. But you were perfect, Sasuke," Ino protested. "You did everything right. Naruto just got lucky." "Yeah. His wild swing just happened to hit you through the invisibility jutsu," cut in the pink-haired girl. "No offense, Naruto. But invisible enemies are really hard to fight. You can't count on luck like that in the field." "Lucky hit? Ha! Don't make fools of yourselves. Naruto broke my weak genjutsu within a minute of my using it. And then he fooled me into thinking he hadn't until it was too late," Sasuke explained. "The fact that you two didn't break it says as much about your skills as it does about his." "I was too passive though. I should have moved around more, thrown my weight around, along with some shuriken," Naruto pointed out, ignoring the girl's indignant proclamations of competence. "I love my wind jutsu, but I should have thought of other attacks rather than spamming it and letting you set up that double bluff. And I should have seen that substitution jutsu coming. Gotta work on my situational awareness." "Do not let Mom or Big Brother hear you say that," Sasuke whispered harshly, grabbing Naruto's collar and forcing him into close eye contact. "You will never sleep soundly again. Never. Ever. Ever." Haha, guess Uchiha exercises can get intense, Kiba observed, coming up behind the group. Mom and Hana will be happy to help, buddy. Won't be pleasant, but they at least don't jump you while you're sleeping. Orochimaru. You have been acting more furtive than usual lately. Have you been sampling my Akatsuki without permission again? What? No. It isn't me this time, the Sannin protested. Somebody thinks they're a few pints light. Have them check with Sasori or maybe Haiden. He seems like he could be into that sort of thing. I can honestly say I had nothing to do with it. Within the last 10 months, at least. And Kakuzu killed that guy, so he couldn't possibly have complained. The last sentence was said in a mumble. Good. Is it anything that concerns Akatsuki? Do not lie to me, Sannin. Your goodwill has already been stretched to the breaking point. Would you believe that I honestly don't know yet, sir? Orochimaru tapped the hilt of Kusanagi in contemplation. Sure, he could carry it swallowed all the time, but keeping it in a sheath on his belt was much more comfortable and convenient when he didn't need to conceal it. I've been getting some interesting biological samples from my spies in Konoha and Kumo, but even flash cloning is by no means as swift as the name implies. However, if I do get useful results, I will be sure to inform you. See that you do. Hail, hero of truth. Hashigaki Kisame looked up from the corpse of the latest hunter ninja from Kiri to have more skill than wisdom. After all, if wisdom had trumped skill, the assassin would have never attacked him. The rogue from Hidden Mist's mouth hung open as he took in the massive, white being before him, even as he interposed Samahata between himself and the creature. Kisame hadn't earned his S rank without a healthy dose of paranoia. What? The fuck? Are you? And if you lie to us, Samahata and I will dine well tonight, Kisame informed the thing. Sure, it was kind of unnerving that something so big had managed to sneak up on him, but it took more than that to intimidate the scourge of Kirigakure. Very well. I am Rez Hiram, and that answer is exactly why I wish to speak with you, hero of truth. Chapter 6. Who is Uzumaki Naruto? To catch them is the real test, to train them is my cause. Yumino Irika panned his eyes over the assembled students, mostly, diligently working in his classroom. It was just a few days until the big test, the one that would decide who would become genin, and who would require another year of schooling. Most of the students were appropriately impressed with the gravity of the situation, but now that there was a lull in the stream of questions, the sensei felt like checking over the study hall. It seemed out of character for all the usual suspects to be present in class without a test in progress. Naruto Shikamaru had his head down on his desk, but he was quizzing Ino on the timeline of the Third Great Ninja War, so it was probably really him. Akimichi Choji was solving math problems out of the back of a book with the speed of desperation. No trouble there. Kiba and Akamaru were both present in the back, though they probably assumed nobody could see the rather sappy shoujo manga behind their history textbook. Even though the manga had the dog and his boy in well-concealed tears. Well, Kiba needed the practice reading, so whatever book motivated him was just fine with Irika. I really should have held out for a Konoha library card when I struck that deal with Minato, Giratina sighed, adjusting her mirror to get a clearer view over Kiba's shoulder. Dog boy had better have the rest of the series, or I will haunt his dreams. Uchiha Sasuke was here, writing notes with his enthusiastically stabby pet. And Naruto was here, staring off into space. Well, better than absent, but where was the snake? Naruto and Hokori the snake were practically joined at the hip. And there was no way Irika has missed a 6-foot-long, bright blue snake. So where was the animal? As soon as he questioned Naruto's presence, the blonde vanished like he was never there. Genjutsu. Which meant... Sasuke? Irika's tight smile couldn't quite reach his eyes. Where exactly is Naruto? Uchiha Sasuke. Pre-genin. 24,571. What? Why was Sasuke spouting nonsense at him? Uchiha Sasuke. Pre-genin. 24571. Sasuke calmly scribbled down another note. Wait a second, don't use counter-interrogation techniques on your sensei. Uchiha Sasuke. Pre-genin. 24,571. And you don't have a serial number yet. You aren't a ninja yet. It wasn't that hard to figure out, Shikamaru contributed, still resting his head on his hands. They'd been using the same algorithm for 10 years. It was less troublesome to tell them. You're in on this? So where's Naruto? Ugh, so troublesome. Nara Shikamaru. Pre-genin. 23,792. Inazuka Kiba. Pre-genin. 12,345? Woof. Right. 30,809. Abiraim Shino. Pregenin. 68,525. Hihi. Yamanaka Ino. Pregenin. 98,306. Harino Sakura. Pregenin. 84,747. Crap, Irika's smile evaporated under the united front. I'm gonna have to call your parents, aren't I? Uchiha Sasuke. Pregenin. 24,571. Please, Sakura, we need you to give us some answers. To say that the interrogations had not gone well would be a massive understatement. Yamanaka Inoichi in particular didn't know whether to cry tears of joy or terror that his daughter had picked up so much of the clan's renowned psychological techniques, and then passed the public ones on to her friends. Everything from threats to bribery had spectacularly failed, and unless the assembled adult ninja were willing to break out the harder techniques, they weren't getting anywhere. Haruno Mabuki, self-proclaimed most badass mom this side of the military/civilian line, had a few more tricks up her non-existent sleeves. Naruto could be in danger right now, the trader observed, drawing on years of experience as a mother, and imparting everyone from ninja to the daimyo of Wind himself from their hard-earned cash to break through to her daughter. He could be stuck down hole somewhere, or have wandered into a training ground and gotten caught in the fringes of a jutsu, or she trailed off and concentrated on the thought of Sakura in the same situation so that tears would well up in her eyes, and was gratified when her daughter's lip began to quiver. Gotcha. Who needed ninja powers when mom powers worked just as well? Then Sakura smiled a very evil smile. You're all asking the wrong questions. Instead of do you know where Naruto is, you should be asking what has Naruto been up to, unsupervised, for the past 4 hours? Most of the adults looked at each other in confusion, but a few got the message. Irika, having been the one to track down Naruto on most of the days he decided to play hooky, lure him back with ramen, and then deal with the fallout, went deathly pale. Itachi, familiar with Naruto from years on his ANBU bodyguard squad, immediately scanned the classroom for traps. Abiraim Shibi, Shino's father, subtly placed himself so that Hyuga Hayashi would be between him and the most obvious places to conceal a particularly messy trap. Irika leaped out of the window, swearing under his breath. Well, of all the adults in the room, he knew Naruto best. He'd have the best chance of finding him. Irika, a few Chunin roped in to help, and a curious, off-duty Hatake Kakashi swept the village for Naruto. They didn't catch any sign of him. The next morning, Naruto and Hokori wandered into the classroom, looking rather bedraggled, as though nothing was wrong. Boy and Pokemon were covered in ink splatters, but Naruto looked rather pleased with himself. Naruto, where have you been? Irika wasn't looking too good himself, having been up all night trying to find his wayward student. We were so worried. Your classmates wouldn't tell us anything. They didn't know anything, Naruto insisted. I didn't tell them I was skipping. So where were you? Irika took in Naruto's appearance, and sighed. So who did you prank this time, then? And how did you hide from the ANBU? Lord Hokage called them out when you'd been gone for hours. We thought you'd been kidnapped. Eh? I never left the academy. I was in the library the whole time. The boy scratched the back of his head sheepishly. I figured that if I could get good at making those splody seals and storage seals Uncle Jiraiya showed me, you might let me pass even though I suck at doppelgangers. So I was up all night practicing. They work like all the time now. Functioning explosive seals? That was almost worse than if he had gone pranking. Naruto, it is very important that you are completely honest in your answer to this question. How many explosive seals are you carrying right now? Like 60? Irika started twitching. That was enough explosives to level the academy 3 times over. Unless a tag was perfectly made, overexposure to chakra could set it off. And Naruto was not only a self-admitted novice of the art, he also had the worst chakra control of anyone in the graduating class. But Uncle Jiraiya says the really awesome ones are for Chunin and better, so mine just make light and smoke and noise. Irika couldn't hear him. The poor Chunin had already started foaming at the mouth. Hokori tentatively prodded the catatonic teacher with his tail, sending the unfortunate ninja toppling over backwards. Mizuki-sensei. Naruto broke Irika-sensei. Naruto exploded in a massive cloud of purple and orange smoke, strobing lights, and deafening bangs. Naruto was feeling stressed. Of course, he almost always felt this way on exam days, but today was different. This exam would determine whether he got to become a genin at the same time as all his friends or not. The blonde knew he had bombed the math and science portions. He now understood why every ninja, not just those in intelligence and R&D, needed a basic foundation in these skills. Unfortunately, he only figured this out after 4 years of schooling, and was forced to spend the last year playing desperate and only partially successful catch-up. Fortunately, With his legible handwriting and newly perfect vision, he had probably passed the Japanese and history portions. Thank you so much, Sasuke and Sakura. His sharp vision had also carried him to respectable scores in target practice. He hadn't bombed the stealth portion, but sneaky and subtle would never be Naruto's strong suits. Naruto's pranks were mostly concealed by sheer chutzpah. After all, because the Hyuga and Uchiha had super eyes, they never expected anyone to even try to sneak past them. Just like nobody ever expected someone to try to paint the Hokage monument in broad daylight, or distract them by turning into a naked girl, or any of the other tricks he'd used over the years. Cat Mask Guy and Abirame Sensei, tasked with evaluating skills not included in the basic academy curriculum, were pretty impressed with his seals and his wind jutsu, though. And Naruto's transformation and substitution jutsu were flawless, even if he needed the hand signs to do them because his chakra control still sucked. He could, however, use the wall climbing technique to get a few yards up a tree, and Hyuga-sensei said that was an acceptable way to demonstrate his chakra control. He also cracked Nara-sensei's sample code in 10 minutes flat. Even Shikamaru took 12. Naruto privately thought that after learning some of the basics of deciphering the functions of other people's seals, the code was pretty easy. He didn't say it though, because he didn't like it when people said the stuff he thought was hard was easy. Like the Genjutsu test with Yamanaka-sensei. Most of Naruto's friends thought that was pretty easy, but Naruto took 6 tries to dispel the illusion. That was pretty bad. Naruto and Hokori's taijutsu combination passed with flying colors, and both Boy and Pokemon also passed the physical evaluation separately, a testing procedure usually used for Inuzuka and their dogs. Ninja animals and their partners had to be able to operate without their chosen ally if need be. This way, if one was critically injured, the other could protect their partner and possibly complete the mission. Both of them passed the field first aid test as well. Anything that might keep Naruto from losing one of his friends was well worth the effort. He would never have the control for medical ninjutsu, but he could bandage and stitch, splint and medicate with the best in his class. And Hokori was about as skilled as someone with no limbs could be. But Naruto hadn't been able to do the doppelganger jutsu at all. Even though everyone from his classmates to Auntie G had tried to help, although Auntie G called it double team for some reason, it was the same jutsu, he just couldn't make it work. Iruka-sensei had even taken time after school for a month to help, with no success. Hokori could make doppelgangers and he learned the same way, which meant it wasn't the teacher's faults, but that made it even more frustrating. Uncle Jiraiya said that if he tried using the other kinds of doppelgangers Jiraiya knew, he'd die of chakra exhaustion, so that was out. And a no credit on any part of the test meant a lot more than getting partial credit by doing badly. So Naruto was sweating bullets, and he had a long wait. The students were given their final scores in alphabetical order, and the only person after Naruto was Yamanaka Ino. Unlike him, she was confident she'd passed. Eventually, finally, Naruto's name was called and he entered the room with uncharacteristic nervous silence, although he spared a hopeful glance toward the row of unclaimed Hyatate armored headbands, etched with the symbol of Konohagakure, still on the desk. Since they ordered a Hyatate for every student, that meant that 5 hadn't passed. Gulp. Wordlessly, Mizuki-sensei handed him his score sheet. 70%. He needed 71 to pass. Damn it, Naruto let the tears fall. Now all my friends are gonna. I really thought I could do it. I was so close too. Unnoticed by the blonde, his pants tore with a faint shritch, as he clenched his hands inside his pockets. Mizuki grimaced sympathetically. I know it sucks, kid. I did the math 3 times cause I couldn't believe it. You really gave it your best effort. If you'd just gotten one more math problem. The instructor visibly wrestled with the thought for a few minutes before he continued in a quieter voice. I probably shouldn't do this, but I feel like somebody with your dedication and loyalty to your friends would be great for Konoha. I feel like you're gonna go far, kid, and I don't want to be the one to get in the way of that. So, tell you what. In the Hokage Tower, behind the old man's office, there's a room full of scrolls. It's a tradition that if somebody gets as close to passing as you did and learns a jutsu from the largest scroll in that room, they can pass anyway. Orochimaru passed that way, you know. Not the nicest man to hold up as an example, but whatever else you can say about him, he was a great ninja. And he was an orphan just like you. Just like you, he didn't have ninja parents or a clan to teach him what he needed to pass, so he needed that last point. The jutsu he learned propelled him toward a position as one of Konoha's legendary Sannin. It's a demonstration of your skill, so even the Hokage himself is honor-bound to stop you if he catches you, whether or not he wants you to pass. Now, I know this clearing a few miles from Konoha, near an abandoned shack. If you take the scroll there, you should be able to study long enough to learn a jutsu before somebody finds you. Maybe even 2, and 1 up the Sannin. Just demonstrate it to them, and you'll be a genin for sure. Hey Naruto, come back. Where does the brat think he's going? Jiraiya scratched his chin. We gotta celebrate him passing. What if he didn't pass? Don't be ridiculous. He's got a better grasp of the basics than I did when I graduated, observed the Sannin, but that would explain I'd better go after him. Shouldn't leave him alone with that. No. Let him sort it out himself. He will not want our presence now, however well-intentioned. Trust me. When he is ready to talk, he will come to us. You know, now that I know you actually exist, it really just makes this even creepier. Can't believe Sarutobi-sensei was keeping this from me. So I have been told by every living person I have consulted on the subject. You mean everybody you've spoken to? No. Naruto, what are you doing in my house in the middle of the night? Old man. Crap. Ninja centerfold. Oh my. TNI. KZZZT. In Mizuki-sensei's secret training ground, Naruto and Hokori unrolled the massive scroll, almost as tall as the young human was, to reveal the first item on the scroll, a storage seal? Mizuki-sensei said that Naruto needed to learn a jutsu from the scroll, but maybe there was an awesome weapon inside the seal. Or maybe the jutsu scroll was inside the seal. After all, it wasn't like either of them had seen inside a high-level jutsu scroll before. So, carefully following Uncle Jiraiya's instructions, Naruto applied chakra to the seal and pulled another scroll, almost as large as the first, from the extra-dimensional storage space. He'd been right. It was a jutsu scroll in a scroll. Eagerly, Naruto spread the new scroll on the ground. From where it had been rolled up in the scroll, a small metal object rolled out, and Naruto grabbed it before it hit the ground. Holding his prize up to the moonlight, Naruto saw he was holding a small trinket, kind of like a cross between the hairpins Sakura would wear and the medals he saw retired ninja wearing sometimes on formal occasions. The strange pin was topped by a blue and green polished stone the size of a marble with a black design on the top that Naruto didn't recognize. After a few moments of fumbling, Naruto fastened the pin to his shoulder, underneath the spiral charm he wore on his left shoulder, and returned to the scroll itself. He figured it might have something to do with the jutsu inside, and it wasn't like anybody was using it anyway. He started reading, out loud of course. He still wasn't a very strong reader. Scroll of Champions. Let it be known that all those within are the chosen, champions of the Pokemon League, having earned their title in courage, strength of body, and resilience of spirit. What's a Pokemon? Shrugging, Naruto turned back to the scroll, finding what looked like a list of names in a strange ink. No, that was blood. The oldest names were too faded to read, but the newer names could still be deciphered. Red of Palette. Lance of Blackthorn. Stephen Stone. Cynthia of Celestic? Man, these were some weird names. Iris the Dragon Speaker. Duchess Diantha. Ash Ketchum. Oit Satsuki Hagoromo. Hokori, do you know who these guys are? The Dratini thought for a moment, but nothing really came to mind. I think my parents told me a story about a hero named Lance who lived a long time ago. Hokori scratched uncertainly into the dirt. Maybe they're the same person? Well, should I sign it? Hokori gave the snake equivalent of a shrug. How should he know? I want to be a champion. That sounds cool, like somebody strong, Naruto declared, already drawing a kunai. The Jinchuriki pricked his finger and scrawled his name on the next available space. There. He leaned back in satisfaction, slapping his open, bloody hand below his signature to match the fingerprints underneath the previous names. Did somebody just sign the Scroll of Champions? There's a champion? I thought our duties were just a formality at this point. There hasn't been an active league in nearly 2,000 years. My grandfather knew this day would come. His sight was always the clearest. And to think we thought he was going senile. 3 massive puffs of smoke surrounded Naruto and Hokori, prompting them to whirl, back to back, to face the potential threat. However, either of them expected what they saw. The smoke cleared to reveal 3 canine beings. The first stood taller than Naruto on his hind legs, in a straight, powerful stance. His fur was dark, though moonlight glistened off spikes on his wrists, and a dusting of silver around his muzzle. A faint, blue glow surrounded the creature where he was not covered by his subdued kimono, which had a masculine cut, like some great power was barely restrained under its skin. He also had a pair of reading glasses balanced on his long, blue nose, and several pens stowed behind his ears. The second also stood on 2 legs, albeit hunched over amongst shakujo. On the rings at the top of the staff, a calligraphy brush, a pot of ink, and a pair of spoons hung. Most of the Pokemon's body was covered by a rough spun robe and cloak, but a vulpine muzzle graced by sweeping, mustache-like whiskers peeked out. The third stood on 4 legs, and looked rather like someone had fused a poodle with the 7 legendary swords of hidden mist using some forbidden jutsu. Its white fur and black skin made a shocking contrast, though the sweeping blades on its head and tail and the vicious claws on each paw commanded the most attention. And all three of them were looking right at Naruto. "Hail, champion," the first one spoke. "We are the keepers of the Hoenn League records. I am the librarian. My companions are the scribe and the sentinel. Of course, it has been a rather long time since there have been any records to keep." "The script?" The monk chuckled, shaking his head in response to the four-legged one's uneasy whine. Of course, the fact that he was speaking without moving his mouth would have freaked Naruto out if the boy had noticed. But Naruto wasn't a very observant person, so he didn't, and calm was preserved. "It's been many years and many generations since our ancestors were last called upon to fill their duties. I doubt the version of the script we have is current or relevant, or that it would mean anything to our young champion here. I sense the aura of but a few of our number in the area, most deep in slumber or hidden far away," the librarian murmured unhappily, as if that monster wasn't bad enough. 2,000 years of the warring clans, but that is of no matter at the moment. There are some things that you must know, young champion. "Oh, lighten up, you old stiff-neck," the scribe bonked his friend over the head with the faint clank of shakujo against steel bone. "He needs to fill out a bit first, before he can perform the traditional duties. We ought to wait until he's at least 20. Let him do that puberty thing humans do. Right now, it'd be like sending a real to do your job. Our families have waited for this for thousands of years. We can wait a little longer." "I really miss working with your father," the steel type grumbled, before falling silent for a few moments. "Very well. Young champion, by dint of lack of competition, you have become the Hoenn League champion. This is not to say that you will not be one day truly worthy, but you are not at the moment. Now, the league currently has a membership of exactly one, you, and no assets to speak of. Also, you are obviously barely half-trained, and in no condition to lead. So your duties are relatively simple at the moment. Become strong and wise enough to lead. If you require our advice or assistance, you may summon us as needed. However, our duty is to protect the scroll and any other documents, records, books, scrolls, etc. that you may acquire for the League. We would really appreciate not being dropped into a battle of arms, which might put our charges in danger." "Much better," the monk stated, banging the butt of his shakujo against the ground with a clatter. "Now that stuffy old Lucario is kind of a stick in the mud, but Sentinel Absol and I are happy to help you in any way that doesn't imperil the records. So good luck, and don't hesitate to send a summoning jutsu if you need us." The three guards and the scroll vanished in another burst of smoke. Naruto and Hokori stood in shock for a few moments, then Naruto had a thought. "But I don't know how to summon. Or what a summon is. Oh, no! I wasted all this time, and I still have to learn a jutsu. I gotta get to work." Naruto and Hokori rushed back to the scroll they borrowed from the Hokage and unrolled it further. Hokori lay down on the blank end of the scroll to keep it open, the heavy roll of paper on the other side helping to hold it open. "Let's see. The next thing in the scroll is the art of the shadow doppelganger? Man, my least favorite technique, and it's just everywhere now. Maybe the next jutsu." Naruto opened the scroll further and started reading the next jutsu, but quickly stopped as he turned grass-type green. "Ugh, that is one nasty suicide jutsu. I think I'm gonna toss my ramen." Naruto managed to suppress his rebellious guts with some difficulty, and returned to the first technique. "Then again, if I learn a doppelganger jutsu, that'll impress people all the more cause of how hard they are, right?" "There you are, Naruto! Oh, thank goodness. Listen, a traitor stole the scroll of forbidden jutsu from the Hokage's office, and it sits right next to you. Naruto, what have you done?" "Oh, Iruka-sensei. You found me. That's great. I was starting to think nobody'd ever find me." Naruto heaved himself off the ground and brushed off his legs. It didn't help much, since his whole body was covered in dirt and sweat and grass stains. "Now I can graduate, right?" "What? Naruto, you did graduate." Iruka quirked an eyebrow. "Your test scores weren't the best, but you passed. You have to do more than bomb the doppelganger test and get average academic scores to fail. Wait, where's your hiatate?" Schluck! Iruka went down, a massive shuriken embedded in his back just to the left of his spine. Behind him, arms still extended in the follow-through of his throw, Mizuki grinned triumphantly from a tree above the other Konoha ninja. "Quick, Naruto! I need you to throw me the scroll," Mizuki called down. "Iruka's the traitor. He's trying to steal the scroll, and the immensely powerful jutsu within." "No!" Mizuki traitor Iruka gasped, before his internal injuries spoke up and he collapsed, coughing up blood. "Listen, Naruto, you can't trust him," Mizuki warned the blonde. "Iruka wants to kill you. I could sense his killing intent. Do you think I wanted to stab the man I've worked with for years in the back? It was you or him." But why? Tears started to leak from Naruto's eyes as he swiveled his head between his two teachers. Iruka-sensei's nice. Isn't he? He kept Sasuke from stabbing me in practice. When I skip he comes and finds me and gives me ramen when I do good stuff. He can't be a traitor. That's what people hate so much about traitors. The healthy sensei hopped down from his tree and drew closer to the boy, keeping his movements slow and his hands visible. It's easy to fight an enemy that comes at you with blades and jutsu. Not one that pretends to be your friend. And make no mistake, Iruka loathes you from the depths of his black, shriveled heart. But why? I never did anything bad to him, blubbered the Jinchuriki. From the boy's feet, Hokori rose up to coil soothingly around Naruto, making sympathetic noises. Why would he hate me? Why? Tell me what I did. You did nothing but the same thing that makes everyone hate you, crowed Mizuki. You killed Iruka's parents. His mommy and daddy are gone. He is an orphan, almost like you. And it's all your fault. But that isn't Iruka-sensei's parents died in the Kyuubi attack. I was born that night. This wasn't making sense. How could I have killed anybody then? Haha, you actually still think you're human? Mizuki was very close now, a vicious grin on his face. I bet you still think the fourth Hokage killed the Kyuubi. You really think it's possible to kill a Biju? Man, what are they teaching in school these days? Naruto was many things, but he wasn't stupid. He started to put the pieces together. You're not saying I'm. You are the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the demon that nearly annihilated our village 12 years ago. The teacher's hands landed heavily on Naruto's shoulders, forcing the Jinchuriki to look the older man in the eyes. You killed Iruka's parents. You killed your hero, the fourth Hokage. Oh, the irony. You left hundreds of children on the streets to die. Your Uncle Jiraiya and Grandpa Hokage only stay around you so they can put you down before you can regain your true strength if you discover what you really are, demon. Dark red chakra started to leak from Naruto's pores, his canines extending as his fingernails sharpened into claws. The unrestrained, corrosive power tore at Mizuki and Hokori. The Pokemon released his friend with a cry of pain, but Mizuki barely flinched. Iruka tried to say something, anything, but the blood slowly filling his lungs muffled his voice. See? See? Mizuki grasped Naruto's wrist and forced his hand, new claws and all, into sight. Your true nature reveals itself. Demon! Monster! Freak! You will never be welcome in Konoha, demon. Not now, not ever. The only reason your little friends tolerate your existence is that they do. Not. No. And how will you conceal yourself from them now? Naruto's new fangs drew blood from his lips as his eyes began to turn red. Staggering back from his teacher, the boy sank to his knees, staring blankly at the shaking talons of a monster. A killer. But I know where you can be accepted. Where they will want you, Mizuki suggested, striking while the iron was hot. Lord Orochimaru cares not whether you are a monster. All he cares for is power. And potential. You, Fox Boy, have much of both. Join us, and you'll never be hated by anyone who matters. What? Why would he want me? Wouldn't he hate me like everybody else? This didn't quite add up to Naruto. But it was hard to think everything burned. I'm a monster. I killed Iruka's parents. I killed most of the Uchiha. I'm too dangerous to be around. That threw Mizuki for a loop. The Uchiha? The Kyuubi had hit them remarkably lightly. But he wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth. It was time for his master stroke. Yes, you did. You killed them all. But you needn't worry about acceptance, Mizuki concentrated, and dark marks spiraled over his skin from a point on his left shoulder. As Naruto watched, the marks grew denser, covering the man's skin in darkness as claws and fangs snapped into place. With a hideous crack, the older ninja's knees reversed, leaving him standing on his toes as the whites of his eyes turned pitch black and blades sprouted from each elbow. After all, Lord Orochimaru took me in, didn't he? What if Naruto gets exiled to Pokemon? End here and thanks for watching my video till the end.